The most feared mafia boss on the East Coast suddenly cancels his wedding in front of 400 guests and declares he'll marry a complete stranger instead. A terrified graphic designer who walked into the wrong chapel by mistake. 1 year of fake marriage in exchange for $10 million. No love, no emotion, just a contract to secure his empire. But when enemies strike and bullets fly through Manhattan's darkest corners, the line between performance and reality shatters. Now she's trapped in a world of blood, power, and a man who kills without hesitation. Can she survive until the contract ends? Hit like and comment your city so I can see how far this story travels. Let's begin. The rain came down hard that October evening, turning Manhattan's streets into rivers of reflected neon and headlights. Ava Hartley stood outside the cathedral, soaked through her lavender bridesmaid dress, mascara probably running down her face, clutching a broken umbrella that had given up 3 blocks ago. She was late, catastrophically late. Her best friend Sarah's wedding started 20 minutes ago, and Ava had spent the last hour trapped on a delayed subway, then running through tourists and traffic like her life depended on it. The hem of her dress was already filthy. Her heels were killing her, and now she stood at the base of these enormous stone steps, staring up at stained glass windows that glowed gold in the darkness. The cathedral looked like something out of a nightmare. Too big, too old, too quiet for a wedding that should have been full of music and celebration. Ava pushed through the heavy wooden doors anyway. The entrance hall swallowed her whole, all shadows and cold marble and the smell of old incense. She could hear voices somewhere deeper inside, echoing off high ceilings she couldn't see. Her heels clicked too loud on the stone floor. She moved fast, following the sound, until she reached another set of doors. These ones were partially open, golden light spilling through the gap. Ava slipped inside, and immediately knew something was wrong. This wasn't Sarah's wedding. The chapel was massive, easily 400 people packed into pews beneath vaulted ceilings, and candlelight that threw dancing shadows across the walls. But the crowd looked nothing like Sarah's family. These people wore wealth like armor, designer suits, diamonds that caught the light like warnings, faces she recognized from news broadcasts and tabloid covers, politicians, celebrities, people who moved through the world like they owned it. And scattered throughout the crowd, Ava spotted them. Men in dark suits standing too still, hands folded in front of them, eyes constantly scanning. Security. Armed security. She'd bet money on it. What the hell kind of wedding was this? Ava started backing toward the door, but the ceremony had already begun. The priest stood at the altar, an older man with silver hair, speaking in practiced tones about commitment and sacred vows. The groom stood beside him, tall and rigid in an expensive tuxedo, staring straight ahead with the expression of a man facing execution. And the bride? The bride stood there in a dress that probably cost more than Ava's yearly rent, trembling. Not with joy, with rage. "I can't do this," the bride said suddenly, her voice cut through the ceremony like a knife. The priest stopped mid-sentence. The entire cathedral went silent. 400 people held their breath. "Excuse me?" the groom said. "I said I can't do this." The bride's voice rose, shaking but determined. "Not after what you did. Not after her." Oh no. Ava pressed herself against the back wall, trying to become invisible. This was about to get ugly. "We'll discuss this later," the groom said through clenched teeth, fake smiles still plastered on his face for the guests. "We'll discuss it now," the bride shot back. She turned to face the crowd, tears streaming down her face, voice breaking. "He's been sleeping with my sister for 6 months, while planning this wedding, while lying to my face every single day." The cathedral erupted. Gasps. Shouts. A woman in the front row screamed. People started standing, phones coming out, cameras flashing. The groom grabbed the bride's arm, hissing something Ava couldn't hear. The bride shoved him back, and then a voice cut through the chaos like a blade through silk. "Enough!" One word, barely raised, but it silenced 400 people instantly. Ava's heart stopped. A man stepped out from the shadows near the altar. She hadn't even seen him standing there. He'd been watching the whole time, perfectly still, almost invisible, against the dark stone. But now, under the candlelight, Ava saw him clearly. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed entirely in black, black suit, black shirt, no tie. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble. Sharp jaw. High cheekbones. Eyes so dark they looked black in the flickering light. He was beautiful in the way a loaded gun was beautiful. dangerous, precise, built to destroy. The groom went pale. The bride took a step back, and every person in that cathedral sat down without a word. The man in black moved down the aisle with the unhurried confidence of someone who knew the world would wait for him. His footsteps echoed in the silence. People leaned away as he passed, like he was radioactive. He stopped in front of the altar, hands in his pockets, and looked at the groom with an expression of pure disdain. "You embarrass the family," he said quietly, "in front of everyone who matters, in front of people I do business with." "Roman, I can explain—" "Shut up." Roman's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "You had one job. Marry well. Strengthen our alliances. Instead, you fucked her sister and turned our family into a joke." Ava's blood went cold. Roman. Roman Moretti. She'd heard that name before, seen it in newspapers, whispered in the kinds of conversations people had when they thought no one was listening. Roman Moretti, the Mafia boss who controlled half of New York's underground, and Ava had just walked into his family's wedding. She needed to leave, now, right now, before anyone noticed she didn't belong here. Or anyone, Ava started edging toward the door, moving as quietly as possible, praying the shadows would hide her. "Where do you think you're going?" Roman's voice stopped her dead. Ava turned slowly. Every eye in the cathedral was now on her. 400 people staring at the nobody in the dirty lavender dress who'd somehow crashed the Moretti family's private ceremony. Roman looked at her like she was a puzzle he was deciding whether to solve or destroy. "I'm sorry," Ava stammered, voice barely working. "Wrong chapel. I was looking for a different wedding. I'll just—" "Stay," Roman said. It wasn't a request. Ava's legs locked. She couldn't move even if she wanted to. Roman studied her for a long moment, something calculating moving behind those dark eyes. Then he turned back to the disgraced groom and the sobbing bride. "This wedding is over," Roman announced. "Both of you will leave New York tonight, and if I ever see either of you again, I'll forget we're blood." The groom opened his mouth to argue. Roman's expression didn't change, but two of those armed men in suits immediately appeared beside the groom, hands on his shoulders. The groom shut his mouth. Within seconds, they were escorting him and the bride down the aisle and out of the cathedral. Whispers started rippling through the crowd. Roman let them talk for exactly 10 seconds. Then he raised one hand and silence fell again. "My grandfather," Roman said, voice carrying to every corner of the massive space, "made a decree before he died. The Moretti Empire can only be inherited by a married heir. No wife, no control. My 35th birthday is in 3 days. If I'm not married by then, everything passes to my uncle Salvatore." Ava didn't understand why he was saying this out loud. This sounded like private family business, not something you announced to 400 people. But then Roman turned and looked directly at her, and Ava's stomach dropped into her shoes. "You," Roman said, walking toward her. "What's your name?" "Ava." It came out as a whisper. "Ava Hartley." "Do you have a husband, Ava Hartley?" "No." "Boyfriend?" "No." "Family who'll come looking for you?" Ava's throat closed. "I have a mother. Why are you asking me this?" Roman stopped 3 feet away. Up close, he was even more terrifying. 6'3" at least, eyes like black ice. And when he looked at her, Ava felt like he could see every secret she'd ever kept, every fear she'd ever swallowed. "Because I need a wife," Roman said calmly. "And you walked in at the right time." The cathedral erupted again, voices overlapping, people shouting questions, someone screaming that this was insane. But Roman ignored all of it, still staring at Ava like she was the only person in the room. "You're crazy," Ava breathed. "Probably," Roman agreed. "But I'm also serious. 1 year. Fake marriage. You play the role, appear in public, convince my enemies I'm legitimate. In exchange, I'll pay you $10 million. Ava's brain short-circuited. $10 million? Plus a penthouse, security, anything you need. Roman pulled out his phone, opened something, and showed her the screen. It was a bank account, with more zeros than Ava had ever seen in her life. "I'll transfer $1 million tonight as a signing bonus, the rest when the year ends." "This is insane," Ava said again, louder this time. "You don't know me. I don't know you. You can't just—" "I can." Roman's voice went cold. "The question is whether you're smart enough to say yes." Ava looked at the screen again. $1 million. Tonight. Her mother's medical bills flashed through her mind. The collections notices stacking up on the kitchen counter. The student loans drowning her. The dreams she'd buried because survival took everything she had. $10 million could fix all of it. But this man was a criminal, a killer, someone who ruled through fear and violence. Saying yes meant stepping into a world she didn't understand, surrounded by people who'd see her as prey. I need time to think, Ava managed. You have 30 seconds, Roman said. That's not enough. 25 seconds. Ava's heart hammered. She looked past Roman at the crowd of wealthy, dangerous people watching this unfold like it was entertainment. She looked at the armed men positioned throughout the cathedral. She looked at the stained glass windows and the candlelight and the shadows that seemed to grow darker with every passing second. And then she looked at Roman Moretti, the man who'd just offered her more money than she'd ever dreamed of having. The man who looked at her like she was a problem to solve, not a person. The man whose eyes held nothing but cold calculation. Why me? Ava asked. You could pick anyone. Why some random stranger who walked into the wrong room? For the first time, something almost human flickered across Roman's face. Because you're nobody. No connections to my enemies, no ulterior motives. No one will see this coming. He paused. And because you look terrified, which means you're smart enough to understand what you're stepping into. 10 seconds, Roman added. Ava closed her eyes, thought of her mother's face, thought of the tiny apartment in Queens, thought of every dream she'd deferred and every hope she'd killed. Then she thought of the alternative. Going back to her life, the debt, the exhaustion, the slow suffocation of never having enough. She opened her eyes. Okay, Ava whispered. I'll do it. Roman smiled. It was the most terrifying thing Ava had ever seen, not because it was cruel, but because it was genuine. Like she'd just made him very, very happy. Good, Roman said. He turned to the priest who stood frozen at the altar. We're doing this now. You'll marry us. Tonight. The priest opened his mouth to protest. Roman looked at him. The priest closed his mouth and nodded. Wait, Ava said, panic rising. Now? Right now? The clock's ticking, Roman said. He held out his hand. This only works if we do it immediately, before anyone has time to question it or investigate you. We marry tonight, announce it tomorrow, and by the time my birthday arrives, it'll be too late for Salvatore to challenge it. Ava stared at his outstretched hand like it was a snake. Once you take my hand, Roman said quietly, there's no going back. You understand that? Ava understood. She understood she was about to make a deal with the devil. She understood her life would never be the same. She understood that this beautiful, terrifying man would own her for the next year, but she also understood that $10 million meant freedom. So Ava reached out and took Roman's hand. His grip was firm, warm. And the moment their skin touched, Ava felt the cathedral shift around her, like reality had cracked, and she'd fallen through into something darker. Roman pulled her toward the altar. The crowd erupted into chaos again, people standing, shouting questions, cameras flashing. But Roman ignored them completely, walking Ava down the aisle like they'd planned this for months. The priest waited for them, looking like he might be sick. Do it fast, Roman told him. The ceremony was a blur. Ava heard the words but couldn't process them. Her hand shook as Roman slid a ring onto her finger, a massive diamond that appeared out of nowhere, probably meant for the original bride. When the priest asked if she took Roman Moretti as her husband, Ava's voice barely worked. I do, she whispered. Roman's response was steady, clear. I do. You may kiss the bride, the priest said weakly. Roman turned to Ava, leaned down, and kissed her. It was brief, professional. His lips barely touched hers, but Ava felt it everywhere. The heat of his mouth, the pressure of his hand on her lower back, the way every person in that cathedral held their breath. When Roman pulled away, his eyes met hers. Welcome to the family, he said quietly. Mrs. Moretti. Ava's legs nearly gave out. Roman caught her elbow, steadying her, and guided her back down the aisle. People were screaming questions now. Someone rushed forward with a camera. One of Roman's security team intercepted them smoothly, creating a wall of bodies between Ava and the chaos. They burst through the cathedral doors into the rain. It was still pouring, turning the stone steps slick and dangerous. Ava barely registered it. There were cars waiting, expensive black SUVs with tinted windows, and photographers. Somehow, photographers had already arrived, cameras flashing in the darkness like lightning. Roman! Roman, who is she? Is this a publicity stunt? Mr. Moretti, did you really just marry a stranger? Roman ignored them all. He opened the door of the lead SUV and guided Ava inside. The interior was warm, leather seats and dark wood, and absolute silence once the door closed. Roman slid in beside her. The driver pulled away from the curb immediately, and Ava watched through the tinted window as the cathedral and the photographers and her old life disappeared into the rainy darkness. She was married to a Mafia boss after knowing him for 15 minutes. Ava started laughing. It came out half hysterical, shaking her whole body. Roman watched her with that same calculating expression, not stopping her, just waiting for it to pass. "I'm sorry," Ava gasped when she could finally breathe again. "This is insane. This is completely insane." "Yes," Roman agreed. "But you said yes anyway." "For $10 million. Everyone has a price." Roman pulled out his phone, typed something, and showed her the screen. "Check your account." Ava's phone was still in the small clutch purse she'd brought to Sarah's wedding. She pulled it out with shaking hands and opened her banking app. The screen loaded. Ava's balance read $1 million. She stopped breathing. "That's real," Roman said. "The rest comes when we finish the year, but that million is yours now, no matter what happens." Ava stared at the number until her eyes blurred. $1 million, sitting in her account. Real money. Enough to pay off her mother's medical bills, her student loans, her credit cards. Enough to breathe for the first time in years. "Where are we going?" Ava asked, voice hollow. "My penthouse," Roman said. "It's where you'll live for the next year. We'll need to establish the marriage quickly. Tomorrow, we'll do a press conference. Announce that we've been secretly dating for months and decided to make it official. The media will eat it up." "And your family, your enemies? They'll believe that?" "They don't have to believe it," Roman said. "They just have to accept it. By the time they realize what happened, it'll be too late to challenge. The marriage will be legal, documented, witnessed by 400 people." Ava looked at him. Really looked at him. In the dim light of the moving car. His face gave away nothing. No emotion, no regret. Just cold efficiency. "Do you feel anything?" Ava asked suddenly. "About any of this?" Roman's jaw tightened. For a moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. "I feel what I need to feel," he said finally. "Nothing more, nothing less." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one you'll get." The SUV pulled up to a building that touched the sky, all glass and steel and lights that reflected in the rain-slicked streets. Security swarmed the entrance. Roman got out first, then held the door for Ava. She stepped onto the sidewalk in her ruined bridesmaid dress and broken heels, and photographers appeared out of nowhere. They must have followed from the cathedral. Cameras flashed, questions overlapped into meaningless noise. Roman slid his arm around Ava's waist, pulling her close against his side. To the cameras, it probably looked protective, romantic, but Ava felt the tension in his body, coiled violence, barely restrained. "Smile," Roman murmured in her ear. "This is what they expect." Ava forced her lips into something resembling a smile. Roman guided her through the lobby, all marble and gold and security desks, into a private elevator that required a keycard to operate. The doors closed. Silence swallowed them. Ava watched the floor numbers climb. 20, 30, 40. The elevator didn't stop until it hit the penthouse level at the very top. The doors opened directly into an apartment that took Ava's breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked all of Manhattan. The city sprawled below them like a circuit board, millions of lights against the darkness. The space was enormous, open concept, minimal furniture, everything in blacks and grays and expensive materials Ava couldn't name. "This is home now," Roman said, walking into the space like he owned it, which he did. "Your bedroom is down that hall, second door. Everything you need is already there." "How?" Ava asked. "We just got married 20 minutes ago." "I made the decision to marry you the moment you walked into that cathedral," Roman said. "I had people prepare the room while we were in the car." Ava's skin prickled. "You're telling me you have staff who can furnish a bedroom in 20 minutes? "I'm telling you I have staff who do what I tell them, when I tell them." Roman poured himself a drink from a crystal decanter. Whiskey, probably. "Get used to it. Your life is different now." "For a year," Ava said. Roman looked at her over the rim of his glass. "For a year," he agreed. But something in his tone made Ava think he didn't quite believe that. She walked down the hall on shaking legs and found the bedroom. It was beautiful. Enormous bed with expensive linens. Walk-in closet already filled with clothes in exactly her size. bathroom with heated floors and a shower big enough for 4 people. Ava locked the door behind her, slid down to the floor, and finally let herself fall apart. She cried until there was nothing left. Cried for the insanity of what she'd just done. Cried for the money she desperately needed. Cried for the terror that lived in her chest now, sharp and cold. When the tears finally stopped, Ava pulled herself up, stripped off the ruined bridesmaid dress, and stood under the shower until the hot water ran out. She didn't know if she'd made the smartest decision of her life or signed her own death warrant, but she knew there was no going back now. Ava Hartley was married to the most dangerous man in New York, and somewhere in the penthouse, Roman Moretti stood at those massive windows, looking out at the city he controlled, holding a glass of whiskey he'd never drink, wondering if the terrified woman in his guest bedroom would survive the year, or if he'd destroy her long before the contract ended. Outside, Manhattan glowed in the rain, and somewhere in the darkness, Roman's uncle Salvatore heard about the wedding and started planning his revenge. Ava woke to sunlight cutting through floor-to-ceiling windows like a knife. For 3 seconds, she forgot where she was. Then the weight of the diamond ring on her finger reminded her. She was married to Roman Moretti. The bedroom was silent except for the muffled sound of traffic 40 floors below. Ava sat up slowly, every muscle aching like she'd been in a fight. The clock on the nightstand read 9:47 a.m. She'd slept maybe 4 hours. Her phone sat on the charger someone had thoughtfully placed beside the bed. Ava picked it up and immediately wished she hadn't. 63 missed calls, 112 text messages. Her social media notifications had exploded into the thousands. Sarah's name appeared 17 times in the call log. Each voicemail grew progressively more frantic. Ava, what the hell happened? Call me back. Are you okay? Please tell me you're okay. The news is saying you married Roman Moretti. That can't be real. Tell me that's not real. Ava deleted the voicemails without listening to the rest. She couldn't explain this to Sarah, couldn't explain it to anyone. She opened a news app instead. The headlines made her stomach turn. Mystery bride. Roman Moretti marries unknown woman in shocking cathedral ceremony. Who is Ava Hartley? Everything we know about the Mafia boss's new wife. Moretti Empire crisis. Averted. Surprise wedding saves crime family legacy. There were photos. So many photos. Ava on the cathedral steps, soaking wet, Roman's arm around her waist. Ava in that ruined lavender dress, looking terrified. Roman kissing her at the altar, his hand on her face like she was something precious. The comments were worse than the headlines. She's a nobody. Gold digger trash. He probably threatened her. Look at her face. She's terrified. This won't last 3 months. He'll throw her away when he's done. Ava closed the app before she could read more. Someone knocked on the bedroom door. 3 sharp raps. Come in, Ava called, pulling the blanket up to her chin even though she was wearing the expensive silk pajamas she'd found laid out in the closet last night. The door opened. A woman stepped inside. Early 50s, gray hair pulled back in a severe bun, wearing a crisp black suit that screamed professional. Mrs. Moretti, the woman said. Not a question, a statement. I'm Elena. I manage Mr. Moretti's household staff and personal security. He asked me to help you prepare for the press conference. Press conference? Ava's voice came out hoarse. 11 o'clock. Downtown. Mr. Moretti is already preparing. You have approximately 1 hour. Elena moved to the closet and started pulling out clothes with practiced efficiency. We'll need to present you as polished, confident, and believably in love. The media will look for any crack in the story. Ava's head spun. I don't know how to do a press conference. You don't have to know. You just have to stand beside him, smile when appropriate, and let him handle the questions. Elena laid out a navy dress on the bed. Elegant, expensive, the kind of thing Ava would never choose for herself. Can you do that? I don't know. Elena's expression softened slightly. Then fake it. That's what everyone in this world does. Fake it until it feels real. The next hour passed in a blur of hair, makeup, and instructions delivered in Elena's calm, relentless voice. By the time Ava looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. The woman staring back looked polished, put together, like someone who belonged on Roman Moretti's arm, like someone who wasn't drowning in panic. Elena led her through the penthouse to a different elevator, one that went down to a private garage. Roman waited beside a black SUV, surrounded by 4 security guards Ava hadn't seen before. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Ava's car. His dark hair was perfect. His expression was unreadable. When his eyes landed on Ava, something flickered there. Assessment, maybe approval, then vanished. "You look good," Roman said. Not a compliment, an observation. "Thanks," Ava muttered. Roman opened the SUV door himself. Ava climbed inside and he followed. The security team filled 2 other vehicles. They moved through Manhattan in a convoy, and Ava watched the city blur past the tinted windows. "What do I say?" Ava asked finally. "If someone asks me a direct question?" "They won't," Roman said. "I'll make sure of that. But if they do, keep it simple. We met 6 months ago, kept the relationship private, decided to make it official. You're happy, you're in love. Don't elaborate. And if they ask about your business? You know nothing about my business. You're a graphic designer. You care about art and design, not what I do for work." Roman's voice was flat, mechanical, like he was reading from a script. "The less you know, the more believable it is." Ava looked at him. Really looked at him. In the morning light, she could see details she'd missed last night. The faint scar along his jaw, the tension in his shoulders, the way his hands rested on his knees, perfectly still, like he'd trained himself not to fidget. "Do you ever relax?" Ava asked. Roman's eyes cut to her. "No." "That sounds exhausting." "It keeps me alive." The venue was a hotel conference room downtown, one of those polished corporate spaces with too many lights and not enough oxygen. By the time they arrived, it was already packed. Reporters, cameras, microphones. The energy felt predatory. Elena appeared beside Ava the moment they stepped out of the SUV. "Stay close to him. If you feel overwhelmed, touch his arm. He'll know to wrap things up." "How long will this take?" Ava asked. "As long as it needs to." Roman took Ava's hand. His grip was firm, almost possessive. They walked into the conference room together, and the cameras erupted into a frenzy of flashes and clicking shutters. A podium waited at the front of the room. Roman guided Ava to stand beside it, then stepped up to the microphones. The room fell silent instantly. "Thank you for coming," Roman said, voice smooth and controlled. "I know yesterday's ceremony surprised many people. I'm here to address that directly." He turned slightly, looking at Ava with an expression that made her chest tighten. It was perfect, soft, almost tender, completely fake. "Ava and I have been together for 6 months," Roman continued, turning back to the crowd. "We kept our relationship private out of respect for her privacy and safety. She didn't ask to be part of my world, but I asked her to be part of my life. And yesterday, she said yes." A reporter shouted a question immediately. "Is it true this marriage was arranged to secure your inheritance?" Roman's expression didn't change. "My grandfather's will requires married leadership. That's true. But I didn't marry Ava because of a legal requirement. I married her because she's the only person who makes me want to be better than what this family made me." Ava's breath caught. The lie sounded so real, so genuine. Roman delivered it without hesitation, like he actually believed it. Another reporter jumped in. "Miss Hartley, can you comment on—" "Mrs. Moretti," Roman corrected sharply. The room went quiet. "Her name is Mrs. Moretti now. And no, she's not taking questions today. This is overwhelming enough without turning her into a spectacle." He said it with enough edge that no one pushed back. The press conference lasted 20 minutes. Roman answered questions about the business, the family, the future. He was smooth, confident. Every answer calculated to give information without revealing anything real. And through it all, Ava stood beside him, smiling when she thought she should, touching his arm once when a reporter got too aggressive. Roman's hand found her lower back immediately, protective and possessive. The performance was flawless. When it finally ended, Roman guided Ava back through the crowd toward the exit. But before they reached the doors, someone called out, "Roman!" The voice cut through the noise like broken glass. Roman went rigid. His hand tightened on Ava's back. When he turned, his expression had gone cold in a way that made Ava's skin crawl. A man stood near the edge of the crowd. Late 50s, silver hair, expensive suit, smile that didn't reach his eyes. He looked like Roman, same bone structure, same dark eyes. But where Roman's face held calculated control, this man's held something crueler. "Uncle Salvatore," Roman said. His voice could have frozen fire. Salvatore smiled wider. "Congratulations on your marriage. I'm sorry I missed the ceremony. I only heard about it this morning. What a surprise." "I'm sure it was. And this must be the bride." Salvatore's eyes slid to Ava, and and she felt her skin crawl. Ava Hartley, graphic designer from Queens, no family connections, no history with our world. How convenient. Ava's mouth went dry. Roman stepped slightly in front of her. The movement was subtle but deliberate. Ava, this is my uncle, the one I told you about. Roman hadn't told Ava anything about his uncle, but the warning in his voice was clear. Play along. Nice to meet you, Ava managed. Salvatore laughed. It sounded like gravel scraping concrete. Such a polite young woman. I'm sure you'll fit right in. He turned his attention back to Roman. We should have dinner. Family dinner. Celebrate properly. We're busy, Roman said. I insist. Salvatore's smile vanished. You wouldn't refuse family, would you? Not when we have so much to discuss. The air between them crackled with tension. Security guards shifted position around the room. Reporters sensed something happening and started raising cameras again. Fine, Roman said finally. Tomorrow night. I'll have Elena send you the details. Looking forward to it, Salvatore nodded to Ava. And welcome to the family, dear. I hope you survive it. He walked away before Ava could respond. Roman's hand found hers again, squeezing once, hard, then releasing. We're leaving, now. They made it to the SUV without incident, but the moment the doors closed, Roman's entire demeanor shifted. The calm mask cracked. He pulled out his phone and made a call, voice low and sharp. I want everything on Ava's background scrubbed. Every social media post, every photo, every connection. And I want surveillance on Salvatore, 24 hours. If he so much as breathes wrong, I want to know about it. He hung up without waiting for a response. Ava stared at him. What just happened back there? Salvatore happened, Roman said. He knows the marriage is a setup. He's going to try to prove it. Can he? Not if we're careful. Roman looked at her, and for the first time Ava saw something that might have been worry in his eyes. That dinner tomorrow is a trap. He'll ask questions, test us, look for inconsistencies in our story. Then we don't go. We have to go. Refusing would confirm his suspicions. Roman ran a hand through his hair, disrupting the perfect styling. We have less than 24 hours to become a believable couple. Ava laughed. It came out bitter. How are we supposed to do that? We've known each other for 12 hours. We learn, Roman said. Fast. They spent the rest of the day in the penthouse, and Ava quickly realized that Roman meant what he said. He treated it like a military operation. Elena produced a thick folder of information. Everything about Roman that Ava would need to know as his wife. His birthday. His favorite foods. His education. The names of his closest associates. Where he went to school. What he did in his free time. Except he didn't have free time. His entire life was the business. You'll need to memorize this, Elena said, sliding the folder across the dining table. By tomorrow night, you should be able to answer basic questions about your relationship without hesitation. Ava flipped through the pages, overwhelmed. This is insane. No one remembers this much detail about their spouse after 6 months of dating. No one is married to Roman Moretti, Elena countered. His enemies will be looking for any excuse to discredit you. Don't give them one. Roman appeared from his office, a space at the far end of the penthouse that Ava hadn't been allowed to enter. He changed into dark jeans and a black t-shirt, and somehow that made him look more dangerous, not less. How much has she learned? Roman asked Elena. We're starting with the basics. Not good enough. Roman pulled out the chair across from Ava and sat down. Quiz me. Ava blinked. What? Ask me questions about you. If we're going to sell this, I need to know you as well as you know me. It felt like a test. Ava picked up her own folder, one Elena had apparently prepared about her, and opened it. What's my mother's name? Ava asked. Margaret Hartley, lives in Queens. Retired nurse. Medical debt from cancer treatment 3 years ago. Roman's voice was flat, factual. You're an only child. Your father left when you were 8. You put yourself through design school working 3 jobs. Ava's throat tightened. You had them investigate me. I had them investigate everyone at that cathedral, Roman said. You just happened to be useful. Useful, Ava repeated. The word tasted like ash. Roman leaned forward. This isn't personal, Ava. It's survival. My uncle wants me dead. He wants control of everything my family built. And right now you're the only thing standing between him and that goal. So yes, I investigated you. And yes, I'll continue to make decisions that protect this arrangement. Because if it falls apart, we both lose. I lose $10 million, Ava said. What do you lose? Everything. Roman's eyes went cold. And everyone who ever helped me. The weight of that hung in the air between them. Ava looked back down at the folder. Fine. What's my favorite color? You don't have one. You told an interviewer in college that you think the question is reductive and that color preferences change with context. Ava's mouth fell open. That was 6 years ago. How did you? I'm thorough. Roman stood. Dinner will be ready in an hour. Elena will show you how we eat together, how we sit, how we interact in public. Tomorrow we do it in front of Salvatore, and we make him believe every second. He walked back to his office and closed the door. Elena gave Ava a look that might have been sympathy. He's not always like this. What's he usually like? Ava asked. Worse. Dinner was strange. They ate at the long dining table, Roman at one end, Ava at the other, Elena standing nearby with a tablet taking notes. Closer, Elena said. Married couples don't sit 8 feet apart. Roman moved to the seat beside Ava without comment. Their knees almost touched under the table. Better. Now talk. About anything. You need to look comfortable together. Ava pushed food around her plate. This is insane. It's necessary, Roman said. Same thing in your world? Usually. Roman took a drink of wine. Tell me about your work. Your real work. Not what's in the file. Ava wasn't expecting that. She looked at him trying to figure out if this was another test. Why? Because Salvatore will ask, and you need to answer like it matters to you. It does matter to me. Then talk about it. So Ava did. She told him about the design agency where she'd worked for 3 years, doing corporate branding for clients who never appreciated the work, about the side projects she took on for extra money, logos for small businesses, wedding invitations, book covers, about the dreams she'd shelved because dreams didn't pay medical bills. Roman listened, really listened, didn't interrupt, didn't check his phone, just watched her with those dark, unreadable eyes. You're good at this, Roman said when she finished. At what? Talking about things you care about. You stopped looking scared. Ava realized he was right. For 5 minutes, she'd forgotten she was sitting across from a Mafia boss. She'd just been talking about design. Your turn, Ava said. Tell me something real, something not in the file. Roman's jaw tightened. Pass. That's not fair. Life's not fair. Roman stood, taking his plate to the kitchen. We're done for tonight. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be worse. But Ava couldn't sleep. She lay in the expensive bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing. The press conference, Salvatore's smile, Roman's cold efficiency, the $1 million sitting in her account like proof of a deal with the devil. Around 2 a.m, Ava gave up. She pulled on a robe and wandered out into the penthouse. The lights were dimmed, but the city glow through the windows provided enough illumination to see. Ava walked to the kitchen, thinking about tea, and stopped. Roman stood at the windows, silhouetted against Manhattan's skyline. He wore the same clothes from dinner. His hands were in his pockets. He didn't move when Ava approached. Can't sleep? Ava asked quietly. I don't sleep much. Why not? Roman was silent for a long moment. Because people I trust get killed when I'm not watching. The rawness in his voice made Ava's chest ache. She moved to stand beside him at the window. 40 floors below, the city pulsed with life. Cars moving like blood cells through veins, lights in windows where other people lived other lives. Can I ask you something? Ava said. You can ask. I might not answer. Why did you really choose me? The truth this time. Roman turned his head slightly, looking at her. In the darkness, his eyes looked black. Because you reminded me of someone. Who? My mother. Roman's voice went soft. She wasn't born into this world either. My father found her working at a bookstore in Brooklyn, fell in love, married her against everyone's advice, and she spent 20 years trying to survive in a world that never wanted her. What happened to her? Salvatore had her killed. Roman's voice went flat again. Along with my father. Made it look like a rival family. I was 17. I figured out the truth 3 years later. Ava's breath caught. And you didn't kill him? Roman finished. I tried. Twice. He's protected. Connected. Untouchable. Through traditional means. He looked back out at the city. That's why I need the legitimate inheritance. Once I control the family legally, I can dismantle his power piece by piece, make him irrelevant, and when he's finally vulnerable... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. I'm sorry, Ava whispered. About your parents. Don't be. It was a long time ago. Grief doesn't work like that. Roman looked at her sharply. What do you know about grief? My father. Ava surprised herself by answering. He didn't die. He just left. But I grieved him anyway. Grieved the dad I thought I had. Grieved the family I thought we were. She swallowed hard. Sometimes absence hurts as much as death. Something shifted in Roman's expression. Not softening exactly, but recognition. Your mother, Roman said carefully. The medical debt. Is she okay now? She's in remission, but the bills nearly destroyed her. Destroyed us. Ava touched the ring on her finger. That's why I said yes. I couldn't watch her drown anymore. That's why I picked you, Roman said. You have something to protect. Something real. That makes you dangerous in ways Salvatore won't expect. I'm not dangerous. Everyone's dangerous when they're cornered. Roman turned fully toward her. Tomorrow night, Salvatore is going to try to break us apart. He'll say things designed to make you doubt me, to make you afraid. You need to be ready. I'm already afraid, Ava admitted. Good. Fear keeps you alive. Just don't let him see it. They stood there in the darkness, two strangers bound by a contract and circumstance, and Ava felt something shift between them. Not trust. Not yet. But maybe the beginning of understanding. Get some rest, Roman said finally. Tomorrow starts early. Ava nodded and walked back to her bedroom. This time, sleep came easier. But in the morning, everything went wrong. Ava woke to shouting. She shot out of bed and ran into the main room, where Roman stood with his phone pressed to his ear, voice sharp as broken glass. When? Roman demanded. How many? Elena appeared from somewhere, her face pale. She saw Ava and shook her head once. Stay quiet. Roman ended the call and threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall and shattered. What happened? Ava asked. Ava. Roman turned to her. His eyes were black with rage. Salvatore made his move. 3 of my warehouses burned down overnight. Millions in inventory. Gone. He did that? He did that. Roman's voice shook with controlled fury. And he made sure it couldn't be traced back to him. This is a message. He's telling me he can destroy everything I've built, and there's nothing I can do about it. What do we do? We go to dinner tonight like nothing happened, Roman said. We smile. We play the happy couple, and we let him think he's winning. Is he? Ava asked. Winning? Roman's expression went cold. Not even close. The rest of the day passed in a tense haze. Roman disappeared into his office, making calls, issuing orders. Ava could hear his voice through the door, low, sharp, dangerous. Elena helped Ava prepare for dinner. Another dress. More makeup. More instructions. Whatever he says tonight, Elena told her, don't react. Don't defend yourself. Don't argue. Just smile and let Roman handle it. And if I can't, then we're all in trouble. The restaurant was in Lower Manhattan, one of those places that didn't have prices on the menu because if you had to ask, you couldn't afford it. Salvatore had chosen it deliberately, his territory, his rules. Roman kept his hand on Ava's back as they entered. The maitre d' led them to a private room in the back, where Salvatore waited at a table set for 6. He wasn't alone. 2 other men sat with him, younger, early 30s, wearing expensive suits and expressions that made Ava think of wolves. And a woman, older, elegant, watching everything with sharp, calculating eyes. Roman, Salvatore said, standing. And the lovely Ava. Please, sit. Roman pulled out Ava's chair. She sat, and he took the seat beside her, close enough that their arms touched. Salvatore introduced the others. My sons, Dante and Marco. And this is Lucia. She handles our family's legal affairs. Everyone shook hands. Everyone smiled. The entire thing felt like watching snakes dance. Dinner began with small talk. Weather, business, the city. Salvatore played the gracious host perfectly, but Ava felt the trap closing with every passing minute. Then Salvatore struck. So, Ava, he said, setting down his wine glass, tell me how you met my nephew. Roman's hand found Ava's under the table, squeezed once. At a gallery opening, Ava said, keeping her voice steady. 6 months ago. He was there with clients. I was there because a friend's artwork was featured. How romantic, Lucia said. Her smile was ice. And you had no idea who he was? I knew he was important. I didn't know he was Roman Moretti until later. But you'd heard the name before? Dante asked. Of course. And that didn't scare you? Marco leaned forward, knowing what he does. Roman's voice cut in, sharp. She doesn't know what I do, and she doesn't need to. That's convenient, Salvatore said. A wife who knows nothing, sees nothing. Very traditional. The word dripped with sarcasm. What exactly are you implying, Uncle? Roman asked. I'm not implying anything. Salvatore smiled. I'm just curious how a graphic designer from Queens ends up married to the most eligible bachelor in New York's underground, within 6 months, without anyone knowing about it. We kept it private, Ava said. Clearly. Lucia pulled out a tablet and slid it across the table. I took the liberty of researching Mrs. Moretti's background, financial records, employment history, social connections. Ava's blood went cold. The tablet showed everything: her mother's medical bills, her student loans, her bank statements from before the wedding, balances hovering near zero month after month. Interesting timing, Lucia continued. Miss Hartley was drowning in debt 6 months ago, and now suddenly she's married to a billionaire. One might wonder if this relationship is based on love or financial necessity. Roman's hand tightened on Ava's. A warning. Don't react. My wife's financial situation is none of your business, Roman said coldly. But it's the family's business, Salvatore countered. You married her to secure your inheritance. We all know that. The question is whether she understood what she was signing up for, or if you coerced her. He didn't coerce me, Ava said. Her voice came out stronger than she felt. I married him because I love him. The room went silent. Salvatore leaned back in his chair, studying Ava like she was a specimen under glass. Love. How sweet. Tell me, dear, what do you love about him? It was a trap. Ava knew it was a trap, but she couldn't think of a single believable answer because she didn't love Roman. She barely knew him. Roman's thumb moved against her palm. Once, twice, a rhythm, a message. Trust me. I love that he's honest, Ava said slowly, even when the truth is ugly. I love that he doesn't pretend to be something he's not. And I love that when he looks at me, I don't feel invisible anymore. The words came out raw, real, because somewhere in the lie, Ava had touched something true. Roman turned to look at her, and for 1 second, the mask cracked. She saw surprise in his eyes, maybe even something that looked like gratitude. Salvatore's smile faded slightly. How touching, he said, but the edge in his voice was sharper now. I hope that love survives what's coming. Is that a threat? Roman asked softly. It's a reality. Salvatore gestured to his sons. The family has concerns about the legitimacy of this marriage, about your judgment, about whether you're fit to lead. I'm fit, Roman said, and the marriage is legal, witnessed, documented. For now, Salvatore said, but marriages can be annulled, especially when they're proven to be fraudulent. Then prove it, Roman challenged. Salvatore's smile returned. Oh, I intend to. The dinner ended shortly after. No dessert, no coffee, just tension thick enough to choke on. Roman guided Ava out of the restaurant, his hand never leaving her back. They made it to the SU-5, and the moment the doors closed, Roman pulled out his phone. He's going to investigate, Roman said, already making calls. He's going to dig into every detail of our story. We need to be ready. How? Ava asked. Her hands were shaking. He knows it's fake. He knows. Knowing and proving are different things. Roman's voice was hard. We just need to hold on until my birthday. 3 more days. Then the inheritance is locked. He can investigate all he wants, but it won't matter. 3 more days, 72 hours. Ava closed her eyes and tried to breathe. When they got back to the penthouse, Roman disappeared into his office immediately. Ava stood in the middle of the main room, feeling the walls close in. She walked to her bedroom, locked the door, and tried to calm down. But her mind kept replaying Salvatore's smile. Lucia's tablet, the debt records displayed for everyone to see. They knew. They all knew she'd married Roman for money. And they were going to destroy her for it. Around midnight, Ava heard a sound from the main room. She opened her door carefully and found Roman at the windows again, holding a glass of whiskey he wasn't drinking. Can't sleep? Ava asked. Roman didn't turn. You did well tonight. I felt like I was dying. You hit it well. Roman finally looked at her. What you said. About why you love me. Did you mean any of it? Ava hesitated. I meant the part about not feeling invisible. Good, Roman said, because that was the only part that sounded real. They stood in silence. Outside, the city glowed. Inside, two people pretended they weren't terrified of what came next. What happens if Salvatore proves the marriage is fake? Ava asked quietly. Roman's expression went dark. Then I lose everything, the business, the family, my ability to protect anyone who's ever helped me, he paused, including you. He'd come after me? He'd destroy you, Roman said flatly. Not because you matter, but because hurting you hurts me. That's how this world works. Ava's chest tightened. I didn't sign up for that. Yes, you did. You just didn't understand what you were signing. The truth of that hit Ava like a punch. She'd been so focused on the money, on the solution to her mother's problems, that she hadn't considered the real cost. I should leave, Ava said. I should take the $1 million and disappear before this gets worse. You can't, Roman said. If you run now, Salvatore wins. And he'll send people after you to make sure you can't testify against me later. The only safe place for you right now is here. With me. Trapped. Ava was trapped. I'm sorry, Roman said suddenly. The words sounded foreign in his mouth. This wasn't supposed to be your problem. But it is now. Yes. Ava walked to the window and stood beside him. 40 floors below, Manhattan pulsed with life. Millions of people living normal lives, going to normal jobs, having normal problems, and here she was, married to a mafia boss, caught in a war she didn't understand. What did you mean earlier? Ava asked. When you said I don't feel invisible with you? Roman was quiet for a long time. I meant I see you, really see you, not the performance, not the terrified stranger, the person underneath all that. And what do you see? Roman turned to face her fully. In the darkness, his eyes were impossible to read. Someone stronger than she thinks she is. Someone who survived a world that tried to crush her. Someone who hasn't given up even when she should have. Ava's breath caught. That's why I picked you, Roman continued. Not because you were convenient, but because you reminded me that survival is its own kind of strength. Something shifted between them in that moment. The air felt different, charged. Roman reached out slowly, like he was approaching something wild that might bolt. His hand cupped her face. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. This wasn't supposed to happen, Roman murmured. What wasn't? This. His eyes dropped to her mouth. Wanting to kiss you for real. Ava's heart hammered. Roman! He kissed her. Not like at the cathedral. Not performed for cameras or witnesses. This kiss was real, deep, devastating. His hand slid into her hair, his other arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her against him. And Ava stopped thinking entirely. She kissed him back, desperately. Her hands found his chest, his shoulders, his jaw. The glass of whiskey fell from his hand and shattered on the floor. Neither of them cared. Roman backed her against the window. The cold glass pressed against her spine. His mouth moved to her neck, her jaw, back to her lips. Ava made a sound she'd never heard herself make before. Tell me to stop, Roman breathed against her mouth. Ava should have said it, should have pushed him away. This was a mistake, a disaster waiting to happen. But instead she pulled him closer and whispered, Don't. Roman groaned and kissed her harder. His hands moved down her sides, over her hips, lifting her slightly. Ava wrapped her arms around his neck and let herself fall. They made it as far as the couch before Roman pulled back, breathing hard. We can't, he said roughly. This complicates everything. Everything's already complicated, Ava pointed out. This makes it worse. Roman ran a hand through his hair. If Salvatore finds out we're actually... He stopped himself. Actually what? Ava asked. Roman looked at her like she'd asked him to solve an impossible equation. I don't know. They stood there in the broken glass and scattered furniture cushions, two people who'd agreed to a fake marriage now facing something that felt dangerously real. I should go to bed, Ava said finally. Ava, good night, Roman. She walked to her bedroom and closed the door before he could say anything else. Her whole body shook. Her lips felt swollen. Her mind raced. What the hell had just happened? In the main room, Roman stood alone, staring at the spot where Ava had been, trying to remember why he'd built walls around himself in the first place. And somewhere across the city, Salvatore Moretti received a phone call from one of his investigators. "We found something," the voice said, "about the girl. Something that connects her to a federal witness protection inquiry from 3 years ago." Salvatore smiled. "Send me everything," he said, and the trap snapped shut. Ava woke to pounding on her bedroom door. Not knocking. Pounding. Like someone was trying to break through. She shot upright, heart hammering, and checked her phone. 6:30 in the morning. She'd only been asleep for 3 hours. "Ava." Roman's voice came through the door. Sharp, cold. Nothing like the man who'd kissed her last night. "Get dressed. Now." Something in his tone made Ava's blood run cold. She threw on jeans and a sweater, hands shaking, and opened the door. Roman stood in the hallway, fully dressed in a dark suit, hair still wet from a shower. But his face looked like carved stone. "What happened?" Ava asked. "Conference room, 5 minutes." Roman turned and walked away without waiting for a response. Ava followed him through the penthouse. Elena was already in the conference room, along with 3 men Ava didn't recognize. They wore suits, earpieces, the kind of blank expressions that meant private security or worse. A laptop sat open on the table. Roman stood behind it, arms crossed, staring at the screen like it had personally offended him. "Sit," Roman said to Ava. She sat. Her stomach twisted into knots. Roman turned the laptop to face her. "Explain this." The screen showed a police report. 3 years old. Ava's name appeared multiple times throughout the document, along with photographs she'd forgotten existed. Her throat closed. "Where did you get this?" Ava whispered. "Salvatore's investigator sent it to every major news outlet an hour ago," Roman said. His voice was ice. "It's already trending, so I'll ask you again. Explain it." Ava's hands trembled. She couldn't look away from the screen, from her own face staring back at her, younger, terrified, sitting across from a detective in an interrogation room. "I was a witness," Ava said finally. Her voice barely worked. 3 years ago. There was a shooting outside my apartment building, gang violence. I saw the whole thing from my window. The police asked me to testify." "And did you?" Roman asked.
No.
Ava's voice cracked. "The night before the trial, someone broke into my apartment, left a note on my pillow. It said if I testified, my mother would die. So I recanted, said I didn't see anything clearly, couldn't identify anyone. The case fell apart." One of the security men leaned forward. "What gang?" Ava looked at Roman. His expression gave nothing away. "The Sanchez crew, South Bronx." The room went silent. Roman's jaw tightened. "The Sanchez crew works for my uncle." Ava's stomach dropped. "I didn't know that. I swear I didn't know." "It doesn't matter what you knew." Roman's voice was deadly quiet. "Salvatore just connected you to a federal witness intimidation case. He's telling everyone that I married a woman who was targeted by my own family's associates, that I'm either incompetent or complicit. I'm not. He's also telling them that you were paid to recant your testimony," Roman continued, speaking over her, "that you have a history of accepting money to lie under oath, which means our marriage looks exactly like what it is, a financial transaction, a fraud." Ava couldn't breathe. "I didn't take money. I recanted because they threatened my mother." "Prove it," Roman said. "I can't. It was 3 years ago. I threw away the note. I never told anyone. Then we have nothing." Roman slammed the laptop closed. "Salvatore just destroyed our credibility. By tonight, every judge, politician, and business partner I work with will question whether I'm stable enough to lead, whether I can be trusted, whether marrying you was the decision of a rational man or a desperate one." Ava stood up. Her legs barely held her. "I didn't know. You have to believe me." "What I believe doesn't matter." Roman turned away from her, staring out the windows at the city below. "My birthday is in 48 hours. The inheritance locks at midnight. Salvatore just gave himself ammunition to challenge it, to claim I rushed into a fraudulent marriage with a woman who has a documented history of criminal involvement. I was the victim." Ava's voice rose. "They threatened to kill my mother. And you let them get away with it," Roman said coldly. "You let murderers walk because you were scared." The words hit like a slap. Ava stared at his back, feeling something crack inside her chest. "You're right. I was scared. I was 23 years old and terrified and alone. My mother had just finished cancer treatment. We had nothing. No money. No protection. What was I supposed to do?" Something brave, Roman said quietly. Something that didn't make you a liability. Ava laughed. It came out broken. That's rich. Coming from you. From a man who married a stranger to secure an inheritance. Who spent his whole life playing games with people's lives. Don't lecture me about bravery when you've never… Roman spun around. His eyes were black with rage. Never what? Never put myself at risk? Never made impossible choices? You think I'm playing games? Aren't you? I'm surviving. Roman's voice shook with barely controlled fury. I watched my parents die when I was 17. Watched my uncle destroy everything they built. Spent 20 years clawing my way to a position where I could finally strike back. And the only thing standing between me and that goal is you. A woman who lied about her past, who walked into my life at the worst possible moment, who I should never have trusted. The words hung in the air like poison. Ava's eyes burned. Then why did you? Roman's expression shifted. For 1 second, she saw something raw beneath the anger, something that looked like regret. I don't know, he said finally, but it was a mistake. Ava felt the room tilt. She grabbed the edge of the table to steady herself. So what now? Now you stay here, Roman said. Don't leave the penthouse. Don't talk to anyone. Elena will make sure you have everything you need. Where are you going? Damage control. Roman headed for the door. I need to meet with my lawyers. Figure out how to spin this before Salvatore does more harm. Roman, wait. He stopped but didn't turn around. Last night, Ava said quietly. Did it mean anything? Roman's shoulders tensed. Last night was a mistake, like everything else about this arrangement. He walked out. The door closed behind him with a sound like a gunshot. Ava stood alone in the conference room, surrounded by security guards who wouldn't meet her eyes, feeling her world collapse. Elena appeared beside her. Come on, let's get you something to eat. I'm not hungry. You need to eat anyway. Elena's voice was gentle but firm. Roman will fix this. He always does. But Ava wasn't sure there was anything left to fix. The day passed in a nightmare haze. Ava stayed in the penthouse like Roman ordered, but she couldn't stop checking her phone. The news coverage was brutal. Roman Moretti's mystery bride, connected to witness intimidation scandal. Did Mafia boss marry federal case liability? Moretti. Marriage in question as bride's criminal past surfaces. The articles included photos from the police report, quotes from anonymous sources claiming Ava had been paid to recant her testimony, speculation about whether Roman had known about her past when he married her. Sarah called 17 times. Ava didn't answer. Her mother called once. Ava answered that one. Ava, sweetheart, what's happening? Her mother's voice shook. The news is saying terrible things about you and this man you married. Is it true? Did you really marry someone you barely know? Ava closed her eyes. Mom, I can't explain right now. Are you safe? Yes. Are you lying to me? Ava's throat closed. I have to go. She hung up before her mother could argue. By evening, Roman still hadn't returned. Elena brought dinner, but Ava couldn't eat. She sat at the windows, watching the sunset over Manhattan, feeling trapped in a cage made of glass and steel and her own stupid choices. Around 9 o'clock, the elevator opened. Roman walked in, looking like he'd aged 10 years in 12 hours. His suit was rumpled, his tie was loose, his face was gray with exhaustion. He saw Ava at the windows and stopped. I need to tell you something, Roman said. His voice was flat, empty. Ava stood. What happened? Salvatore filed a formal challenge to my inheritance. He's claiming the marriage is fraudulent, that I coerced you, that your criminal history makes you an unsuitable spouse for the head of the family. Roman walked to the bar and poured himself whiskey. This time he drank it. The family council agreed to hear his case. Tomorrow night, they'll vote on whether to uphold the marriage or nullify it. Ava's legs went weak. Can they do that? They can do whatever they want. They're the council. Roman drank again. If they side with Salvatore, the marriage is void. I lose the inheritance. Everything transfers to him at midnight on my birthday. What do? We attend the hearing. We answer their questions. We try to convince 12 old men that our marriage is legitimate. Roman's laugh was bitter. Except it's not. And now they have proof. The police report doesn't prove anything, Ava argued. I was a victim. I was threatened. It proves you're connected to criminal activity, Roman interrupted. It proves you have a history with my uncle's associates. Whether you knew about the connection or not doesn't matter. It looks like I either didn't vet you properly or I'm working with Salvatore. Either way, I look incompetent." Ava felt tears burning her eyes. "This is my fault." "Yes," Roman said. "It is." The words cut deeper than any knife. "I'm sorry," Ava whispered. "I'm so sorry." "Sorry doesn't fix this." Roman set down his glass. "I need to prepare for tomorrow. You should get some rest." He started to walk past her. Ava grabbed his arm. "Don't do this," she said. "Don't shut me out. We can figure this out together." Roman looked down at her hand on his arm. When he met her eyes, there was nothing there. No warmth, no connection, just cold calculation. "There is no together," Roman said quietly. "There's a contract, and in 48 hours, it ends. One way or another." He pulled away and disappeared into his office. Ava stood alone in the massive penthouse, surrounded by luxury she didn't want, trapped in a marriage that was falling apart, and for the first time since this nightmare began, she let herself cry. Not quietly, not delicately. She sobbed until her chest hurt and her throat was raw and she couldn't breathe properly. She cried for her mother, for herself, for the impossible situation she'd walked into with her eyes wide open because she'd been desperate enough to believe in a fairy tale with a mafia boss. She cried until there was nothing left. Then she washed her face, fixed her hair, and made a decision. If this was going to end, she'd face it standing up. The next evening, Elena dressed Ava in black, a simple dress, elegant but severe. Hair pulled back, minimal makeup. She looked like she was going to a funeral. Maybe she was. Roman emerged from his office wearing a three-piece suit that made him look like he was going to war. His face was unreadable. He didn't speak to Ava, didn't look at her, just walked to the elevator and waited. Ava followed. They rode down in silence. The SUV was waiting in the garage. Security surrounded them. But this time, Ava noticed something different. The guards weren't just protecting Roman, they were watching her, like she was a threat. The hearing took place in a building Ava had never seen before. Old brownstone in the financial district. No signs, no identifying marks, just a door with a buzzer and a camera. Roman pressed the buzzer. The door clicked open. Inside, the building was elegant in an old-world way. Dark wood, Persian rugs, oil paintings that probably cost more than Ava's life. A man in a suit led them down a hallway to a large room that looked like a courtroom from a century ago. 12 men sat in high-backed chairs arranged in a semicircle. They were all older, 50s to 70s, wearing expensive suits and cold expressions. Behind them, security guards lined the walls. And in the front row of seats, Salvatore sat with his sons and Lucia, all of them wearing expressions of barely concealed triumph. Roman guided Ava to 2 chairs facing the council. They sat. Roman's hand found hers under the table, squeezed once, not comfort, a warning. Play your part. An elderly man in the center chair leaned forward. "Roman Moretti, you're here because a formal challenge has been filed against your marriage. Do you understand the gravity of this hearing?" "I do," Roman said. His voice was steady. "Then let's begin." The man gestured to Salvatore. "Present your evidence." Salvatore stood. He moved to the center of the room like he owned it. "Gentlemen of the council, I come before you today not out of ambition, but out of concern. Concern for our family, concern for our legacy, and concern for the man who claims to lead us." He pulled out a remote and clicked. A screen lowered behind the council. Images appeared. The police report. Photos of Ava from 3 years ago. Documentation of the Sanchez crew's connection to Salvatore's operations. "My nephew married this woman," Salvatore continued, "without conducting proper background checks, without understanding her history, and most troubling, without realizing she has direct connections to our own criminal network." One of the council members spoke up. "Are you suggesting Roman knew about these connections?" "I'm suggesting incompetence at best," Salvatore said smoothly. "At worst, desperation. My nephew needed a wife before his birthday. He grabbed the first woman he found. And now we're all exposed because of his reckless decision." Roman's hand tightened on Ava's. But he said nothing. Salvatore clicked again. New images appeared. Financial records. Bank statements showing the $1 million transfer from Roman to Ava. "And here," Salvatore said, "we see the truth. This marriage is a transaction. Roman paid this woman $1 million the night they married. Not a gift, not a gesture of love. Payment. For services rendered. Murmurs rippled through the council. She has a history of accepting money to compromise her integrity, Salvatore continued. 3 years ago, she allegedly recanted testimony against our associates. Now she's accepted money to pretend to be Roman's wife. This is a pattern, and it makes a mockery of everything our family stands for. Roman stood. His voice cut through the room. Are you finished? Salvatore smiled. Almost. I have one more piece of evidence. He clicked the remote again. Security footage appeared on the screen. Ava recognized it immediately. The penthouse. 2 nights ago. Her and Roman standing at the windows, talking. The footage had no audio, but the body language was clear. Ava crying. Roman standing apart from her. The distance between them obvious even on camera. Then the footage jumped forward. To last night. To Roman walking out of the conference room. To Ava standing alone, shoulders shaking. This, Salvatore said quietly, is a marriage in name only. They sleep in separate rooms, they barely speak. And when they do interact, it's clear there's no love, no partnership, just 2 people playing roles. Ava felt her chest constrict. Someone had been recording them. Inside Roman's own penthouse. Someone on his security team had betrayed him. Roman's expression didn't change, but Ava felt him go rigid beside her. Who gave you that footage? Roman asked. Salvatore's smile widened. That's not relevant to these proceedings. It's very relevant, Roman said coldly. Someone breached my home, violated my privacy. That's not evidence. That's espionage. The head council member spoke up. Regardless of how the footage was obtained, it does raise questions about the legitimacy of this marriage. Then ask your questions, Roman said. He sat back down, pulling Ava with him. We have nothing to hide. The questioning began. It was brutal. They asked Ava about the witness intimidation case, about the money Roman paid her, about whether she'd been coerced into the marriage, about whether she understood what Roman did for a living. Ava answered as honestly as she could without incriminating either of them. Yes, she'd been a witness. Yes, she'd been threatened. Yes, Roman paid her. But not for the marriage. It was a gift. To help her mother. The council members looked skeptical. They asked Roman why he'd married so suddenly, why he'd chosen Ava specifically, why he'd transferred money the same night. Roman's answers were smooth, practiced. He'd fallen in love. He'd wanted to protect Ava from her financial struggles. The timing of the marriage was simply fortunate. No one believed him. Then Salvatore delivered his final blow. I'd like to call a witness, he said. The head council member frowned. This is not a trial. We don't call witnesses. Nevertheless, Salvatore said, I think you'll want to hear what this person has to say. He gestured to the back of the room. The doors opened, and Elena walked in. Ava's blood turned to ice. Elena didn't look at Roman or Ava as she walked to the center of the room. She stood beside Salvatore, hands clasped in front of her, expression neutral. State your name, the head council member said. Elena Volkov. I've worked for Roman Moretti for 8 years. I manage his household and personal security. And what do you have to tell this council? Elena took a breath. When she spoke, her voice was clear and steady. The marriage between Roman Moretti and Ava Hartley is fraudulent. I know because I helped arrange it. The room erupted. Roman shot to his feet. Elena. I'm sorry, Elena said, finally meeting his eyes. But I can't lie for you anymore. Ava couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't process what was happening. Elena turned back to the council. Roman needed a wife before his birthday. He chose Miss Hartley because she was convenient. A stranger with no connections. No one who would question the arrangement. He paid her $10 million. $1 million up front, the rest upon completion of a 1-year contract. She pulled a document from her jacket. This is the contract, signed by both parties. It explicitly states the marriage is temporary and transactional. There is no love, no genuine partnership. It's a business arrangement designed to circumvent your grandfather's decree. Salvatore took the contract and handed it to the council. The head council member read it in silence. His expression grew darker with every line. Roman stood frozen. His face had gone pale. Elena, what did you do? What I had to do, Elena said quietly. Salvatore made me an offer. Financial security for my family. Protection. All I had to do was tell the truth. The truth, Roman repeated. His voice was hollow. You betrayed me. You were going to lose anyway, Elena said. Salvatore would have found another way. This way, at least I get something out of it. Roman looked at her like she'd put a knife in his chest. The head council member set down the contract. Roman Moretti, do you deny that this document is legitimate? Roman's jaw worked. Ava could see him calculating, trying to find a way out. But there wasn't one. No, Roman said finally. I don't deny it. The room went silent. Then this hearing is over, the head council member said. The marriage between Roman Moretti and Ava Hartley is declared fraudulent and invalid. Per the terms of your grandfather's will, control of the Moretti empire passes to Salvatore Moretti at midnight on Roman's 35th birthday, which is, he checked his watch, in 6 hours. Roman didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there like a statue while his entire world collapsed. Salvatore stood buttoning his jacket. Thank you, gentlemen. I'll make sure the transition of power is smooth. He looked at Roman. You're welcome to stay on in an advisory capacity, if you can be trusted. Go to hell, Roman said quietly. Salvatore smiled. Already there, nephew. Already there. He walked out, followed by his sons and Lucia. Elena hesitated for a moment, looking at Roman like she wanted to say something else. Then she followed Salvatore. The council members filed out. The security guards left. Within minutes, the room was empty except for Roman and Ava. Roman stood in the center of the room, staring at nothing. Ava approached him carefully. Roman, don't, he said. His voice was raw. Just don't. We can fight this. We can't. Roman finally looked at her. His eyes were empty, dead. It's over. Salvatore won. I lost everything. Not everything, Ava said desperately. You still have... I have nothing, Roman interrupted. No family, no empire, no leverage. And in 6 hours, I'll have enemies on every side. Do you understand what that means? Ava's throat closed. It means I'm a target, Roman continued. Anyone who ever wanted me dead now has their chance. Salvatore will make sure of it. He'll let the vultures circle until there's nothing left. Then we run, Ava said. We disappear. Roman laughed. It was the most broken sound Ava had ever heard. You don't run from this world. You either rule it or you die in it. Those are the only options. He walked past her toward the exit. Where are you going? Ava asked. To tie up loose ends, Roman said, before Salvatore does it for me. Let me come with you. No. Roman stopped at the door, didn't turn around. You've done enough. The words hit like bullets. Ava watched him walk out, leaving her standing alone in the empty room where everything had fallen apart. She didn't know how long she stood there. Minutes? Hours? Time stopped meaning anything. Finally, she made her way back to the penthouse. The security guards were gone. The place felt abandoned, like Roman had already erased himself from it. Ava went to her bedroom and sat on the bed, staring at her phone. The $1 million was still in her account. She could leave. Disappear. Start over somewhere Salvatore's reach didn't extend. But when she thought about Roman, about his empty eyes and broken voice, leaving felt impossible. Around 11 o'clock, Ava's phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then something made her pick up. Miss Hartley. Salvatore's voice made her skin crawl. Or should I say, Miss Hartley again, since the marriage is void. What do you want? Ava asked. To make you an offer, Salvatore said. You keep the $1 million, you leave New York tonight, you forget you ever met my nephew, and in exchange, I forget you exist. And if I refuse? Then I make sure everyone you love pays the price for your poor judgment. Salvatore's voice went cold. Your mother, your friends, everyone. I have resources now, and I'm not as sentimental as Roman about collateral damage. Ava's hands shook. You're threatening me. I'm giving you a choice, Salvatore corrected. The smart one. The one that keeps you breathing. The line went dead. Ava sat in the darkness, feeling the walls close in. She could run, save herself, protect her mother. Or she could stay. Fight back somehow. Try to help Roman even though he'd pushed her away. But what could she possibly do against a man like Salvatore? She was nobody. A graphic designer from Queens who'd made one stupid decision and watched it destroy everything. Ava looked at the ring still on her finger. The massive diamond that symbolized a marriage that never really existed. She should take it off, leave it behind, walk away from this nightmare. But instead, Ava stood up, walked to Roman's office, and knocked on the door he'd locked behind him hours ago. Roman, she called, I know you're in there. Let me in. Silence. I'm not leaving, Ava said. I'm not running. Salvatore called me, threatened me, told me to disappear. And I'm telling you right now, I'm not going anywhere. More silence. Then the lock clicked. The door opened. Roman stood in the doorway, still wearing his suit, looking like he'd been to hell and back. Behind him, his office was trashed, papers everywhere, broken glass, overturned furniture. Why? Roman asked. His voice was barely audible. Why would you stay? Ava met his eyes. Because you were right. 3 years ago, I let them get away with it. I let fear control me. I let murderers walk. And I've regretted it every day since. She took a breath. I'm not making that mistake again. Salvatore threatened my mother, destroyed your life, and I'm done running. Something flickered in Roman's dead eyes. Not hope, but recognition. If you stay, Roman said quietly, you die. That's not dramatic. That's reality. Then I guess we die together, Ava said. Roman stared at her for a long moment. Then, incredibly, he smiled. It was small, broken, but real. You're insane, he said. Probably, Ava agreed, but so are you. And right now, 2 insane people might be exactly what we need. Roman stepped aside, letting her into the destroyed office. And as midnight approached, as the inheritance transferred to Salvatore and Roman's empire crumbled, 2 people who'd started as strangers bound by a contract stood together in the wreckage and began planning their revenge. Roman's office looked like a war zone, papers scattered across the floor, a broken laptop screen, whiskey soaking into expensive carpet from a shattered decanter. Ava stepped carefully through the wreckage and closed the door behind her. Roman stood at the windows, hands in his pockets, staring out at Manhattan like he was memorizing it. The clock on the wall read 11:47, 13 minutes until midnight, 13 minutes until everything he'd built disappeared. You shouldn't be here, Roman said without turning around. I know. Ava moved closer. Tell me what happens at midnight. Exactly. Control transfers. Salvatore gets access to every account, every property, every connection. By morning, he'll have consolidated power. Anyone loyal to me becomes a liability. What about the people who work for you? They'll switch sides or die. Roman's voice was flat, matter of fact. That's how this works. Loyalty only extends as far as the next paycheck. Not everyone, Ava said. There have to be people who... Elena betrayed me. Roman turned to face her. His eyes were hollow. She knew everything, every weakness, every plan, and she sold it all to Salvatore for what? Money? Protection? He laughed bitterly. I trusted her for 8 years. Then we find people you can trust. There aren't any. Ava crossed her arms. What about Marco? Your driver. He looked at Salvatore like he wanted to kill him at that dinner. Roman's expression shifted slightly. Marco's father worked for my father, got killed in the same hit that took my parents. Marco blames Salvatore. So he's motivated. He's also smart enough to know switching sides now is suicide. Roman ran a hand through his hair. Even if we had people, we have no leverage. Salvatore owns everything, the business, the connections, the territory. He doesn't own everything, Ava said quietly. He doesn't own the truth about your parents. Roman went very still. What are you talking about? You said Salvatore killed them, that you figured it out years later. Do you have proof? Evidence, not proof. There's a difference. Show me. Roman hesitated. Then he walked to what looked like a blank section of wall, pressed his palm against it, and a hidden panel slid open. Inside was a safe. He entered a code and pulled out a thick folder. He handed it to Ava. She opened it carefully. Inside were photos, documents, phone records, financial transactions, all dated from 20 years ago, all pointing to a pattern of communication between Salvatore and members of the Castellano family, the rival crew that supposedly killed Roman's parents. The official story, Roman said, is that the Castellanos ordered the hit because my father was expanding into their territory. But these records show money flowing from Salvatore to Castellano lieutenants in the weeks before, enough money to buy a contract killing. Ava's hands shook as she flipped through the pages. This is evidence of conspiracy to commit murder. It's 20 years old. Half the people involved are dead. The other half would never testify. Roman took the folder back. I've spent years trying to find something actionable, something that would hold up legally. There's nothing. What about illegally? Roman's eyes sharpened. What? You're thinking like someone who plays by rules, Ava said. Her heart hammered. But Salvatore doesn't play by rules. He threatened my mother. He destroyed your life. He murdered your parents and got away with it. She met Roman's gaze. So stop trying to beat him legally. Destroy him the way he destroyed you. Something dangerous flickered across Roman's face. How?
You know this world better than I do, Ava said. But I know people. And people like Salvatore, they're arrogant. They think they're untouchable. That arrogance is a weakness. Roman studied her for a long moment. Then his expression changed. The hollow despair faded, replaced by something sharp and calculating. The gala, Roman said suddenly. What gala?
Salvatore is hosting a charity event tomorrow night at the Grand Metropolitan Hotel. 500 guests. Politicians, judges, business leaders, everyone who matters in this city. Roman started pacing. He planned it months ago, but now it'll serve as his coronation, his chance to announce that he's taken control of the family business. So we crash it, Ava said.
We do more than crash it. Roman's voice grew stronger, more focused.
We expose him. In front of everyone who can hurt him. We take everything he cares about and burn it down. Ava felt adrenaline spike through her system. With what? The evidence isn't strong enough. Not by itself. Roman pulled out his phone and started scrolling. But Salvatore's made mistakes recently. The warehouse fires, the intimidation tactics, the way he took control tonight. He's been sloppy because he thinks he's already won. Roman looked up. I have contacts. People who owe me favors. If I can get them on board, we might have enough to make Salvatore vulnerable. How long do we have? Roman checked his watch. The clock hit midnight. Somewhere in the city, control of the Moretti Empire officially transferred. 22 hours, Roman said. Until the gala. That's how long we have to build a case strong enough to destroy him. Then we'd better start now. The first call Roman made was to Marco. The driver answered on the second ring, voice wary. Mr. Moretti? Are you alone? Yes. Do you still have access to the garage at the holding company? A pause. I do. They haven't updated security yet.
Meet me there in 30 minutes. Come alone. Tell no one. Roman hung up and looked at Ava. If Marco's been compromised, this ends tonight. Salvatore will know we're planning something. He's not compromised, Ava said with more confidence than she felt.
They took a back elevator out of the building, one Ava hadn't known existed. It led to an underground parking structure 3 blocks away. Roman had safe houses, escape routes, contingency plans layered so deep Ava couldn't follow them all. Marco was waiting beside a black sedan when they arrived. He was young, early 30s, with the kind of face that looked friendly until you noticed the scar running from his temple to his jaw. Mr. Moretti. Marco's eyes widened when he saw Ava. Ma'am, we need your help, Roman said bluntly. This will likely get you killed. I'm giving you one chance to walk away. Marco's jaw tightened. What do you need? Roman smiled. It was the first genuine smile Ava had seen since the hearing. Everything. They spent the next 6 hours in a warehouse Roman owned under a shell company Salvatore didn't know about. It was bare concrete and flickering lights and the smell of oil and rust. But it was safe. Roman made calls, so many calls. He reached out to people Ava had never heard of. Associates who'd worked with him for years, cops on his payroll, accountants who'd handled his books, lawyers who owed him favors. Half of them refused to help. Too dangerous. Too much risk. Salvatore was in control now. But the other half listened. A federal prosecutor who'd been building a RICO case against organized crime for 3 years. She'd hit dead ends because witnesses kept disappearing or recanting. Roman offered her something better than testimony. He offered her documents, financial records showing money laundering, racketeering, and conspiracy, all tied to Salvatore's operations. This is gold, she said over the phone. Her name was Chen. She sounded young, hungry. But I need it verified, authenticated, and I need it before a grand jury by next week. You'll have it tomorrow, Roman promised, after the gala. I need you to be there with a warrant ready. You're asking me to trust you. I'm asking you to do your job. Roman's voice was steel. Salvatore Moretti killed my parents 20 years ago. He's murdered, extorted, and terrorized this city for decades. Tomorrow night, I'm handing you everything you need to put him away for life. All you have to do is show up. Chen was quiet for a long moment. I'll be there. The second call went to a reporter, investigative journalist named Davidson, who'd been trying to crack the Moretti family for years. Roman had always shut him down before. Now he was offering an exclusive. "You're really doing this," Davidson said, disbelief clear in his voice. "You're burning down your own family." "It stopped being my family the moment Salvatore took control," Roman said. "Are you interested or not?" "I'm interested, but I want proof, not just your word. You'll have it, tomorrow night, Grand Metropolitan Hotel. Bring cameras." By 6 in the morning, they had a plan. It was insane, reckless, built on favors and desperation and the hope that enough people hated Salvatore to risk helping them. But it was something. Roman ended the last call and collapsed into a folding chair. He looked exhausted, wrung out, but his eyes were sharp again, focused. "How do you feel?" Ava asked. "Like I'm about to commit suicide." Roman looked at her. "You can still leave, take the money, disappear. This doesn't have to be your fight." "Yes, it does." Ava sat down across from him. "Salvatore threatened my mother. He tried to intimidate me into running, and I'm done being scared." Roman's expression softened slightly. "You realize tomorrow night could go very wrong. We could both die, or worse." "What's worse than dying?" "Failing, and watching Salvatore win anyway." Ava reached across the space between them and took Roman's hand. His fingers were cold. "Then we don't fail." Roman's thumb brushed across her knuckles. "I'm sorry. For what I said after the hearing, about you doing enough. I was angry." "I know. You didn't deserve that." "I know that too." Ava squeezed his hand. "But we don't have time for apologies right now. We have a war to win." Roman almost smiled. "When did you get so fierce?" "When I married a Mafia boss," Ava said. "Apparently it's contagious." They spent the day preparing. Marco brought them clothes, weapons, everything they'd need for tomorrow night. Roman made more calls, shoring up support, confirming details. Around noon, Roman's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered it on speaker. "Yes?" "Roman." Salvatore's voice filled the warehouse. "I'm disappointed. I expected you to run. Instead, I hear you're making calls, reaching out to old friends, planning something stupid." Roman's expression didn't change. "You're monitoring my phone." "I'm monitoring everything. You're not the boss anymore. You're just another problem I need to solve." Salvatore paused. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stop whatever you're planning. You're going to leave New York. And if you do that, I'll let you live. I might even let the girl live too." "And if I refuse?" Roman asked calmly. "Then I start with her mother." Ava's blood turned to ice. "Margaret Hartley," Salvatore continued, "lives at 847 Vernon Boulevard, Queens, apartment 4C. She takes a walk every morning at 7, buys coffee at the bodega on the corner. Very predictable routine. Touch her and You'll what?" Salvatore laughed. "You have no power, no resources, no leverage. You're nothing, Roman. Accept it." The line went dead. Ava couldn't breathe. Her mother. Salvatore knew where her mother lived, knew her routine. "Marco," Roman said sharply, "get a team to Vernon Boulevard right now. I want eyes on Margaret Hartley 24/7. If anyone gets within 50 feet of her, I want them detained." "I don't have a team anymore," Marco said quietly. "They all went to Salvatore." Roman's jaw clenched. He looked at Ava. "We need to move your mother. Now." "She won't leave," Ava said. Her voice shook. "She's stubborn. She'll think I'm overreacting. Then we bring her here by force if necessary." They took Marco's car, drove across Manhattan, and through the tunnel into Queens. Ava's heart hammered the entire time. She tried calling her mother. No answer. Tried again. Still nothing. "Maybe she's in the shower," Ava said. "Or sleeping. She doesn't always hear her phone." Roman said nothing, just drove faster. They reached the apartment building 20 minutes later. It looked exactly like it always had. Old brick, rusted fire escapes, kids playing basketball in the street. Ava ran inside, took the stairs because the elevator was broken, reached the 4th floor breathing hard, and pounded on apartment 4C. Mom, open up!" No response. Ava pulled out her key, she still had one from when she'd lived here, and unlocked the door. The apartment was empty, but it wasn't ransacked, wasn't torn apart. Everything looked normal. Coffee mug in the sink, newspaper on the table, her mother's reading glasses folded beside it. "She's not here," Ava said, panic rising. "Where is she?" Roman was already on his phone, calling someone. "I need a location trace on Margaret Hartley's phone. Now." He listened. His expression darkened. What? Ava demanded. What is it? Her phone last pinged 2 hours ago, Roman said. Near the waterfront. Red Hook. Then it went dark. Ava's legs went weak. He took her. We don't know that. Yes, we do. Ava's voice cracked. Salvatore took her. To get to me. To stop us from doing whatever we're planning tomorrow. Roman pulled Ava into his arms. She shook against his chest, trying not to fall apart. We'll find her, I promise. We'll find her. How? We have no people, no resources. You said it yourself. Roman pulled back, gripping her shoulders. We find her the same way we're taking down Salvatore. We use everything we have left. And we don't stop until she's safe. His phone rang. Blocked number. Roman answered. You're looking for someone, Salvatore's voice said. Gray-haired woman, very polite, makes excellent coffee. Roman's grip on the phone tightened until his knuckles went white. If you hurt her, I haven't hurt her. Yet. Salvatore sounded amused. She's comfortable. Fed. Even has a television. I'm not a monster, Roman. I just need your cooperation. What do you want? I want you gone. Permanently. You and the girl. Leave New York tonight. Leave the country if you're smart. Do that, and I'll return Margaret Hartley to her apartment unharmed. I don't believe you. You don't have a choice. Salvatore's voice hardened. You have until midnight. After that, I start removing fingers, 1 per hour, and I'll make sure Ava hears her mother screaming. The line went dead. Ava couldn't feel her legs, couldn't feel anything except rage so pure it burned through the fear. We're not leaving, she said. Her voice was steel. We're going to that gala tomorrow night, and we're going to destroy him. Ava, he has your mother, I know! Tears streamed down her face, but her voice didn't waver. And the only way to save her is to make sure Salvatore can't hurt anyone ever again. If we run, he wins. And eventually, he kills us anyway. You know that. You know how this ends if we don't fight. Roman stared at her. Then slowly, he nodded. Okay, we fight. How do we find her before tomorrow night? We don't. Roman's voice was grim. We accept that we can't save her until Salvatore's power is broken. Which means tomorrow night isn't just about revenge anymore. It's about survival, for all of us. They spent the rest of the day and night preparing. Roman called in the last few favors he had left. Marco found 2 other former soldiers willing to help, men who'd lost family to Salvatore's takeover and wanted payback more than they wanted safety. By dawn, they had weapons, a plan, and coordinates for the gala that started at 8 p.m. Roman made one final call to Prosecutor Chen. Are you ready? I have the warrant, she confirmed. Signed by a federal judge. The moment you give me cause, I can have agents inside that hotel in minutes. You'll have cause, Roman promised. Trust me. Ava spent the hours before the gala in the warehouse bathroom, staring at herself in a cracked mirror. She barely recognized the woman looking back. Hollow eyes, sharp cheekbones, hair that needed washing. She looked like someone who'd been through a war. Maybe she had. Elena's betrayal, the hearing, her mother's kidnapping. 24 hours ago, Ava had been ready to run. Now she was preparing to walk into a room full of dangerous people and light a match. Roman appeared in the doorway. He was dressed in a tuxedo, perfectly tailored, elegant, dangerous. He looked like the man she'd first seen at the cathedral, the king attending his own execution. It's time, Roman said. Ava wore black, a dress Marco had acquired from somewhere, fitted and elegant but easy to move in. No jewelry except the wedding ring she still hadn't taken off. Her hair was pulled back. Her face was bare of makeup except for dark lipstick that made her look severe. She looked at Roman in the mirror. What if this doesn't work? Then we die trying. Roman's expression was serious. But if it does work, Salvatore loses everything. His power, his freedom, his life. Good, Ava said. She turned to face him. Let's go kill a monster. The Grand Metropolitan Hotel took up an entire city block in Midtown. It was old money and new power wrapped in marble and gold. By the time Roman and Ava arrived, the gala was in full swing. Town cars lined the street. Photographers worked the red carpet. Security checked invitations at the entrance. Roman walked straight past them. When security moved to stop him, he said 3 words. I'm Roman Moretti. They stepped aside. Inside, the ballroom was spectacular. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, 500 people in evening wear, drinking champagne and pretending they weren't surrounded by criminals. Salvatore stood near the center of the room, holding court like a king. His sons flanked him. Lucia stood nearby with a tablet. Elena was there too, looking elegant in red, avoiding eye contact with everyone. The moment Roman entered, the room went quiet. Conversations died. People turned, stared. The surprise on their faces was almost comical. Roman Moretti, the deposed boss, walking into his uncle's coronation like he owned the place. Salvatore's smile vanished. "Roman, what are you doing here?" Roman crossed the ballroom slowly, Ava at his side. Marco and the other two soldiers entered behind them, spreading out to cover the exits. "I'm here for the party," Roman said. His voice carried across the silent room. "Isn't that what this is? Celebration?" "This is a private event," Salvatore said coldly. "You're not welcome." "And yet, here I am." Roman stopped 10 feet away. The tension between them was electric. "Tell me, Uncle, how does it feel? Finally getting what you've wanted for 20 years? "Feels like justice," Salvatore said. "Your father was weak. He would have destroyed this family. I saved it." "You murdered him," Roman said flatly. "You and Mother, 20 years ago. Had them killed and blamed it on the Castellanos." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Phones came out. Cameras turned toward them. Salvatore's expression darkened. "You're making wild accusations." "I have proof," Roman said. He pulled out his phone and held it up. On the screen was a video file. Financial records, phone transcripts, testimony from 3 surviving members of the hit squad you hired, all of it authenticated by federal prosecutors. He pressed play. The video showed a man Ava didn't recognize, older, scarred, speaking directly to a camera. "My name is Vincent Morales. 20 years ago, I was part of a team hired to kill Thomas and Catherine Moretti. We were paid by Salvatore Moretti. $100,000, split 4 ways. He wanted his brother dead so he could take control of the family business." The ballroom erupted into chaos. Salvatore lunged forward. His sons moved to intercept Roman, but Marco and the soldiers were faster, pulling weapons and creating a perimeter. "It's over," Roman said quietly. "The feds are outside. They have warrants. They have evidence. And in about 30 seconds, they're going to come through those doors and arrest you for murder, racketeering, and conspiracy." Salvatore's face twisted with rage. "You think you've won? You think this changes anything?" "It changes everything," Roman said, "because now everyone here knows the truth. The judges, the politicians, the business partners you need to survive. They know you're a murderer, and they know the feds are coming." "Where is Ava's mother?" Ava's voice cut through the room like a whip. She stepped forward, shaking with fury. "You kidnapped her. Where is she?" Salvatore smiled. It was vicious. "Somewhere you'll never find her." Then the doors burst open. Federal agents flooded the ballroom. Prosecutor Chen walked in with a dozen armed officers behind her, warrant held high. "Salvatore Moretti," she said clearly, "you're under arrest for murder, conspiracy, racketeering, and kidnapping." Salvatore's sons pulled guns. The room exploded into screaming chaos. Guests dove for cover. Agents shouted commands. Gunfire erupted, sharp cracks that echoed off marble and crystal. Roman grabbed Ava and pulled her down behind an overturned table. Bullets tore through the air above them. Glass shattered. Someone was screaming. "Stay down!" Roman shouted over the noise. But Ava wasn't staying down. She saw Salvatore moving toward a side exit, using the chaos as cover. His sons were laying down, suppressing fire, keeping the agents back. He was going to escape. Ava broke from cover and ran. Roman shouted her name, but she didn't stop. She ran across the ballroom, dodging bullets and fallen chairs and terrified guests, and threw herself at Salvatore just as he reached the exit. They went down hard. Salvatore was bigger, stronger, but Ava had rage and desperation on her side. She clawed at his face, screaming, "Where is she? Where's my mother?" Salvatore backhanded her. Pain exploded across Ava's face. She tasted blood, but she didn't let go. Then Roman was there, pulling Salvatore off her and slamming him against the wall. His forearm pressed against Salvatore's throat. "Tell her," Roman growled. "Tell her where Margaret is, or I swear to God I'll kill you right here." Salvatore laughed even as he choked. "Red Hook, Warehouse District, Building 17. He smiled through bloody teeth. "But you'll never get there in time. My people have orders. If I don't check in by midnight, they kill her." Roman's expression went murderous. His hand moved to his side where Ava knew he'd concealed a weapon. "Don't," Ava said. Her voice cut through his rage. "He's not worth it. Let the feds have him." Roman hesitated. The gun was in his hand now. Salvatore saw it and actually laughed. "Do it," Salvatore taunted. "Kill me. Prove you're just like me. Just like your father. Just like every Moretti who ever—" Roman pulled the trigger. The gunshot was deafening. But the bullet went into the wall beside Salvatore's head, close enough that the man went white. "You're not worth the bullet," Roman said quietly. He stepped back and let the federal agents swarm in. They dragged Salvatore away in handcuffs, still screaming threats. His sons were already down, surrounded by agents. The gala had turned into an active crime scene. Chen approached Roman and Ava. "We got him. Thanks to your evidence, he's going away for life." "He told us where Margaret Hartley is being held," Roman said urgently. "Red Hook, Warehouse 17, but his people have orders to kill her if he doesn't check in." Chen pulled out her radio immediately. "All units, I need tactical at Red Hook Warehouse District, Building 17. Hostage situation. Move now." She looked at Roman. "How long do we have?" Roman checked his watch. The clock read 11:48. 12 minutes, he said. And then he ran. Ava ran after him, Chen shouting at them to wait for backup, but neither of them stopped. They hit the street running. Marco had the car already moving, door open. They dove inside and Marco floored it. The drive to Red Hook took 9 minutes. They ran every red light, drove on sidewalks, Marco's driving absolutely reckless. The warehouse district was dark, abandoned, perfect for hiding someone. Building 17 was a hulking concrete structure near the water. No lights, no signs of life. Roman kicked in the door. They entered with weapons drawn, moving through darkness and rust and the smell of salt water. "Mom!" Ava shouted. "Mom, where are you?" A muffled sound came from deeper in the building. They ran toward it. Margaret Hartley was tied to a chair in the center of an empty room, duct tape over her mouth. 2 armed men standing guard beside her. The guards reached for their weapons. Roman and Marco were faster. 2 shots. Both guards went down. Ava ran to her mother, ripping off the tape, untying the ropes. Margaret was sobbing, shaking, but alive. Alive. "I've got you," Ava whispered, holding her mother tight. "I've got you. You're safe." Behind them, Roman stood in the doorway, watching. His expression was unreadable. And outside, sirens grew louder as federal agents surrounded the building. It was over. Salvatore Moretti was in custody. His empire was crumbling. The evidence would put him away for life. But as Ava held her mother in that dark warehouse, she felt Roman watching her, and she knew this wasn't really over. Not yet. Because they still had to figure out what happened next. Federal agents flooded the warehouse within minutes. Paramedics checked Margaret for injuries while Prosecutor Chen coordinated the arrest of the 2 guards Roman had shot. Both were alive, wounded but breathing. They'd talk eventually, add more charges to Salvatore's growing list. Ava sat on the concrete floor with her mother still holding her tight, refusing to let go. Margaret was trembling, crying, asking questions Ava couldn't answer yet. Roman stood nearby with Marco, speaking quietly to Chen, giving statements, explaining how they'd found the location. Through it all, Ava watched Roman. The way he held himself. Controlled, precise. Like he was already building walls again, brick by brick, sealing himself away from everything that had just happened. "Ma'am." A paramedic knelt beside them, young woman with kind eyes. "We need to take your mother to the hospital, just to make sure she's okay." "I'm fine," Margaret protested, but her voice shook. "I just want to go home." "Mom, please," Ava said gently. "Let them check you. Make sure you're really okay." Margaret finally nodded. The paramedics helped her onto a stretcher. As they wheeled her toward the ambulance, Margaret grabbed Ava's hand. "Come with me," she said. "Please." Ava looked back at Roman. He was watching her, expression unreadable. "Go," Roman said quietly. "Make sure she's safe." "What about you?" "I have things to handle here." Roman turned away before Ava could argue. "Marco will take you to the hospital." It felt like dismissal, like Roman was already cutting her loose, sending her back to her old life now that the crisis was over. Ava wanted to argue, wanted to demand they talk about what came next. But her mother needed her, and Roman was already walking away, phone to his ear, back in control. So Ava climbed into the ambulance and let Marco drive them to the hospital. The emergency room was chaos. Nurses and doctors moving between curtained areas, machines beeping, someone screaming in pain. Margaret was taken for x-rays and blood work, while Ava sat in a plastic chair, still wearing the black dress from the gala, blood on her hands from untying her mother's ropes. Marco brought her coffee that tasted like burnt rubber. Mr. Moretti wanted me to make sure you're protected. I'll stay outside the room. Protected from what? Ava asked. Salvatore's in custody. His people aren't, Marco said grimly. Not all of them. Some will try to avenge him. Others will try to fill the power vacuum. It's going to be messy for a while. How long is a while? Marco shrugged. Weeks? Maybe months. Depends on how many people decide to fight over the scraps. Ava closed her eyes. She'd been so focused on stopping Salvatore that she hadn't thought about what came after. The ripple effects, the retaliation, the fact that Roman's world didn't just stop because one man went to prison. Around 3 a.m, a doctor came out. Older man with tired eyes. Miss Hartley, your mother is fine, dehydrated, some bruising from the restraints, but no serious injuries. We're keeping her overnight for observation, but she can go home tomorrow. Relief crashed over Ava so hard she almost fell. Can I see her? She's sleeping, but you can sit with her. Margaret looked small in the hospital bed. Gray hair spread across the pillow, bruises on her wrists where the ropes had been, but her breathing was steady. She was alive. Ava pulled a chair close and took her mother's hand. Sat there in the darkness, watching her breathe, trying to process everything that had happened in the last 48 hours. She'd walked into the wrong chapel looking for a wedding. Now she was sitting in a hospital after watching a Mafia boss get arrested and her fake husband shoot at his uncle. Fake husband. The words felt wrong now, because somewhere along the way the contract had stopped feeling like a transaction and started feeling like something real. Ava looked at the ring on her finger. The massive diamond caught the fluorescent light. It was beautiful, expensive, a symbol of a marriage that legally didn't exist anymore because the council had voided it. She should take it off, return it, move on with her life. But when Ava tried to remove the ring, her hand wouldn't cooperate. Around dawn, Margaret woke up. She looked confused for a moment, then saw Ava and relaxed. You're still here, Margaret whispered. Of course I'm still here. Ava squeezed her hand. How do you feel? Like I got kidnapped by the Mafia. Margaret tried to smile, but it came out shaky. Which I did, so that tracks. Mom, I'm so sorry. Don't. Margaret's voice was firm despite its weakness. Don't apologize for something you didn't do. Those men took me, not you. But they took you because of me, because I married Roman. Margaret was quiet for a moment, then she asked, Do you love him? The question caught Ava completely off guard. What? The man you married, Roman Moretti. Do you love him? Ava's throat closed. It's complicated. Love usually is. Margaret adjusted her position carefully. I saw the news, about the wedding, the council hearing, everything. And I know you, sweetheart. You don't do things halfway. If you married this man, there was a reason. I married him for money, Ava said quietly. $10 million. To pay off your medical bills. To give us both a fresh start. Margaret closed her eyes. Oh, Ava. I know it was stupid, reckless, but I was desperate, and he offered me a way out. Ava's voice broke. I thought I could just play a role for a year and walk away. I didn't expect any of this. Did you expect to fall in love with him? Ava couldn't answer, because the truth was, she didn't know what she felt anymore. Roman had saved her mother, had destroyed his own uncle to protect her, had looked at Ava like she mattered even when his entire world was collapsing. But he'd also called her a mistake, had pushed her away, had spent 24 hours planning revenge instead of talking to her about what came next. I don't know, Ava admitted finally. I don't know what I feel. Margaret reached out and touched Ava's face. Then maybe you should figure that out before you make any more decisions. By mid-morning, the hospital discharged Margaret. Marco drove them back to the apartment in Queens. Ava helped her mother inside, got her settled on the couch, made tea neither of them drank. Are you staying? Margaret asked. For today. I want to make sure you're okay. And then what? Ava didn't have an answer. Her phone rang. She looked at the screen. Roman. Ava stepped into the kitchen before answering. Hello? How's your mother? Roman's voice was carefully neutral. She's okay, bruised, scared, but okay. Ava leaned against the counter. Where are you? Dealing with fallout. Salvatore's arrest created a power vacuum. I'm trying to make sure it doesn't turn into a bloodbath. I thought you lost control of everything. I did. But nature abhors a vacuum. And right now, the people who worked for me are fighting the people who worked for Salvatore.
Someone needs to broker peace before innocent people get killed. Why does it have to be you? Roman was quiet for a moment. Because I'm the only one they'll all listen to. Even without the official title, I'm still a Moretti. That name carries weight. Ava closed her eyes. So you're staying in that world, even after everything. Where else would I go? Roman's voice was hollow. This is what I am, Ava. It's all I've ever been. That's not true. It is true. Roman cut her off. I was born into blood and violence, raised to lead a criminal empire. Everything I've done, every choice I've made, has been about surviving in this world. I don't know how to be anything else. You could learn, Ava said desperately. You could walk away, start over, be something different. Could I? Or would I just be pretending again, playing another role? Roman's laugh was bitter. We're good at that, pretending. We pretended to be married, pretended to be in love, and look where it got us. The words hit like bullets. Is that what you think? Ava asked quietly. That it was all pretend? Roman didn't answer immediately. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough. I don't know what was real and what was performance anymore. All I know is the contract's void, the marriage is over, and we're both free to go back to our lives. What if I don't want to go back to my old life? Then figure out what you do want. Roman paused. The money's still yours. The $1 million. I'm having my lawyers transfer the remaining $9 million as well. You earned it. You held up your end of the deal even when everything fell apart. I don't want your money. Take it anyway. Build something. Start over. Do whatever you need to do. Roman's voice softened slightly. You deserve better than what I gave you, Ava. You deserve better than this world. What if better includes you? Silence. Then Roman said quietly, It doesn't. It can't. Because I'll never be better. I'll always be the man who put you in danger, who got your mother kidnapped, who dragged you into a war you never should have been part of. That's not... Goodbye, Ava. He hung up. Ava stood in her mother's kitchen, holding her phone, feeling something crack inside her chest. She'd survived kidnapping, federal raids, gunfights. But Roman's goodbye hurt worse than all of it, because it felt permanent. The next 3 weeks passed in a strange fog. Ava stayed with her mother in Queens, helping her recover, trying to figure out what came next. The $9 million appeared in her account exactly as Roman promised. Ava stared at the number until her eyes blurred, feeling like she was holding blood money. She paid off her mother's medical bills, her student loans, the credit cards, donated $1 million to cancer research in her mother's name, put another $1 million into savings, and still had $7 million left that felt like an anchor around her neck. Sarah called repeatedly. Ava finally answered. Where the hell have you been? Sarah demanded. You disappear from my wedding, then I see on the news you married Roman Moretti, then there's a federal raid and I thought you died. I'm fine, Ava interrupted. I'm sorry I missed your wedding. I'm sorry for everything. Are you really married to a mafia boss? Was married. It's complicated. Ava, what's going on? Ava couldn't explain, couldn't find words for what she'd been through. So she said, Can we meet for coffee? I'll tell you everything. They met at a cafe in Brooklyn. Ava told Sarah an edited version of events, the arranged marriage, the contract, Salvatore's attack, the resolution. She left out the parts about falling for Roman, about the kiss at the windows, about the way her chest hurt every time she thought about his goodbye. Sarah listened with wide eyes. When Ava finished, Sarah said, You're in love with him. I'm not. Yes, you are. I can see it on your face. Sarah reached across the table. What are you going to do about it? Nothing. He made it clear it's over. Did he? Or did he push you away because he thinks he's protecting you? Ava hadn't considered that. She'd been so focused on Roman's words that she hadn't thought about what they might mean beneath the surface. He said, I deserve better, Ava said quietly, that I should start over without him. And is that what you want? Ava looked at her coffee. No. But I don't know if what I want matters. Roman's right. His world is dangerous, violent. If I stay in it, I'll always be at risk. Then don't stay in his world, Sarah said simply. Make him come to yours. The idea settled in Ava's chest like a seed. That night, Ava made a decision. She started looking for studio space, found a renovated warehouse in Brooklyn with good light and affordable rent, signed a lease, bought equipment, began setting up a design studio of her own,
Not Ava Moretti's studio, not the wife of a mafia boss trying to legitimize herself. Just Ava Hartley, designer, building something real with her own hands. She worked 16-hour days, designing logos for small businesses, creating brand identities for startups, taking on projects that mattered to her instead of paying the most. The money Roman gave her meant she could choose, could build something meaningful instead of just surviving. A month after the gala, Ava's phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Miss Hartley? A woman's voice. Professional. This is Prosecutor Chen. Do you have a minute? Ava's stomach tightened. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. I wanted to update you on the case. Salvatore Moretti was indicted by a grand jury on 47 counts, including murder, racketeering, kidnapping, and conspiracy. His trial starts in 3 months. We'll need you to testify about your mother's kidnapping. I'll be there. Good. Chen paused. I also wanted to thank you. What you and Roman did providing that evidence, it was incredibly brave. Incredibly stupid, but brave. Ava almost smiled. How is Roman? You haven't talked to him? Not since the hospital. Chen was quiet for a moment. He's been busy, restructuring what's left of the family business, trying to make it legitimate. It's not going well. A lot of people don't want change. Is he safe? Define safe. Chen's voice was dry. He's alive, but he's made enemies. People who think he betrayed the family by helping the feds. It's complicated. After Chen hung up, Ava sat in her empty studio, surrounded by design mock-ups and coffee cups, thinking about Roman. Wondering if he was okay. If he ever thought about her. If he regretted pushing her away. She pulled out her phone and opened her contacts. Roman's number was still there. She'd never deleted it. Ava started typing a message. Deleted it. Started again. Deleted it again. What was she supposed to say? I miss you sounded pathetic. Are you okay? Sounded clinical. I think I love you sounded insane. Finally, Ava typed, the divorce papers never came. She stared at the message for 10 minutes before deleting it unsent. 2 months after the gala, Ava got a package. No return address. Just her name and studio address written in elegant handwriting. Inside was a folder. Legal documents. Divorce papers. Just like Roman promised. Ava's hands shook as she opened them. The paperwork was thorough, professional. It dissolved the marriage completely, split no assets because technically they'd never had joint assets, and required only her signature to finalize. There was a note paperclipped to the front page. I'm sorry it took so long. My lawyers wanted to make sure everything was ironclad, so Salvatore's people couldn't use the marriage against either of us later. Sign these and you're free, completely. No ties, no obligations. You can move on with your life the way you deserve. I hope you're building something beautiful. Ava read the note 3 times. Then she set the papers on her desk and stared at them for an hour. She should sign them, should finalize the divorce and move on. Roman had made his choice. He'd pushed her away, given her the money, and closed the door on whatever they might have been. Ava picked up a pen, put it down again, picked it up, and threw it across the studio. Damn it, she said to the empty room. Damn it, Roman. Because she didn't want to sign the papers, didn't want to finalize the divorce, didn't want to move on. She wanted Roman, wanted the man who'd looked at her like she mattered even when his world was collapsing, wanted the dangerous, complicated, impossibly stubborn mafia boss who thought pushing her away was protecting her. But wanting him wasn't enough. She had to do something about it. Ava grabbed her phone and called Marco. He answered on the 3rd ring. Miss Hartley? Where's Roman? Marco hesitated. I'm not supposed to... Marco, please, I need to talk to him. Another pause. Then Marco said quietly, he's at the penthouse. But Miss Hartley, he's not doing well. He's been drinking, isolating, refusing to see anyone. Give me the address. You already know the address. Then tell me if he'll let me up. I don't think he'll stop you, Marco said. But I don't think he'll be happy to see you either. I'll take my chances. Ava took a car to Manhattan. The doorman at Roman's building recognized her, looked surprised, but let her in. The elevator ride to the penthouse felt like it took hours. The doors opened directly into the apartment just like before. But this time, the space looked different, darker. The curtains were drawn, lights off. The pristine minimalism had given way to something that looked almost abandoned. Roman sat at the windows in the darkness, exactly where she'd found him that night 2 months ago. He wore jeans and a t-shirt. His hair was longer. He hadn't shaved in days. A bottle of whiskey sat on the floor beside him. "You shouldn't be here," Roman said without turning around. "I got your package," Ava said. "Then you know what you need to do. Sign the papers, move on. Forget this ever happened." Ava walked closer. "Is that what you want?" "What I want doesn't matter. It matters to me." Roman finally turned to look at her. In the dim light from the city below, he looked exhausted, haunted, like he'd been fighting a war alone for too long. "Why are you here, Ava?" His voice was rough. "Because you're an idiot," Ava said bluntly. "You think pushing me away protects me, but all it does is make us both miserable. You should be with someone safe, someone normal, someone who won't get you killed." "I don't want safe and normal." Ava crossed the remaining distance between them. "I want you. The real you. Not the performance. Not the Mafia boss. Not the man who thinks he has to carry everything alone. Just you." Roman's jaw tightened. "You don't know what you're asking for." "I do. I'm asking for the man who kissed me at these windows and then pretended it was a mistake. The man who destroyed his own uncle to protect my mother. The man who looks at me like I'm the only thing keeping his darkness alive." Ava's voice shook. "I'm asking for you, Roman. All of you, even the broken parts. Especially the broken parts," she added quietly. Roman stood slowly. He was close enough now that Ava could see every detail of his face, the scar on his jaw, the exhaustion in his eyes, the way his hands trembled slightly before he shoved them in his pockets. "I'll ruin you," Roman said. "I ruin everything I touch." "Then ruin me." Ava reached out and took his hand, pulled it from his pocket, held it between both of hers. "I'd rather be ruined with you than perfect without you." Roman's control finally cracked. He pulled Ava against him and kissed her like he was drowning and she was oxygen. His hands tangled in her hair, her arms wrapped around his neck. The kiss was desperate, messy, real. When they finally broke apart, Roman pressed his forehead against hers. "I don't know how to do this, how to be with someone without destroying them." "Then we figure it out together," Ava whispered. "No more contracts, no more performances, just us, learning as we go." "It won't be easy." "Nothing worth having ever is." Roman pulled back slightly to look at her. "The divorce papers. I'm not signing them," Ava said firmly. "Not unless you look me in the eye and tell me you don't want this. That you don't want me. And I don't mean the protective bullshit about me deserving better. I mean the truth." Roman's eyes searched hers. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he smiled. It was small, broken, but genuine. "I can't," he admitted. "I can't tell you I don't want you, because I do. I have since the moment you walked into that cathedral looking terrified. Then stop pushing me away." "I don't know how to stop," Roman said quietly. "Everyone I've ever cared about gets hurt. My parents, the people who worked for me. Elena betrayed me because staying loyal would have gotten her killed. How do I live with knowing that being with me puts you at risk every single day?" Ava cupped his face in her hands. "You live with it by trusting me to make my own choices, by believing I'm strong enough to handle your world, and by letting me help you build something better." "Something better," Roman repeated. "Like what?" "Like a legitimate business. Like dismantling the criminal parts of the empire piece by piece. Like using all that money and power to do something that actually helps people instead of hurting them." Ava's voice grew stronger. "You said you don't know how to be anything but what you are. So become something different. Not overnight, not perfectly, but bit by bit." Roman stared at her like she'd suggested flying to the moon. "That would take years, maybe decades, and it would make me enemies in my own organization." "You already have enemies in your own organization," Ava pointed out. "At least this way, you'd be building something worth protecting." Roman was quiet for a long time. Then he pulled Ava back into his arms and held her like he was afraid she'd disappear. "You really want this?" he asked against her hair. "You want me? Even knowing how impossible it'll be?" "I want you," Ava confirmed. "Impossible parts and all." "Then stay," Roman whispered. "Please, stay with me." Ava pulled back just enough to look at him. "I'm not going anywhere. But Roman, we need to talk about what this actually looks like, what we're actually doing." They moved to the couch. Roman opened the curtains, letting Manhattan's lights flood the space. And for the first time since everything fell apart, they talked. Really talked. About the business. About Roman's plans to restructure. about the legitimate ventures he could build and the criminal ones he needed to dismantle carefully so they didn't explode in his face, about Ava's studio, about her design work, about building a career that had nothing to do with being Roman Moretti's wife, about their marriage, about whether to keep it or annul it, about what it meant to choose each other without a contract forcing them together. The council voided it, Roman said, but technically, the marriage was still legal when we filed the paperwork. We could challenge the council's ruling, make it stick. Or we could let it stay voided, Ava suggested, and then get married again, for real this time. No contracts, no deadlines, just us choosing each other. Roman looked at her like she'd surprised him. You'd want that? After everything? Not right now, Ava said honestly. We need time to figure out who we are without the pressure, to build something real. But someday? Yes, I'd want that. Someday, Roman echoed. He reached out and touched the ring Ava still wore. You kept this. I couldn't take it off. Ava looked down at the diamond. It stopped feeling like part of a contract and started feeling like it belonged to me. It does belong to you. Roman's thumb brushed across her knuckles. Everything I have belongs to you if you want it. I don't want everything, Ava said. I just want you. They sat in the darkness, holding hands, watching the city glow below them. And for the first time in months, Roman felt something other than rage and despair. He felt hope. The next morning, Ava woke in Roman's bed. Real bed, not the guest room. She was wearing one of his t-shirts. Sunlight streamed through the windows, and Roman was already awake, sitting up against the headboard, watching her. How long have you been staring at me? Ava asked, voice rough with sleep. Long enough to remember why I fell for you in the first place. Ava's heart stuttered. You fell for me? Probably the moment you agreed to marry me looking absolutely terrified. Roman's smile was soft. You were so brave, so desperate, and I knew immediately you were going to wreck me. Did I? Ava asked. Wreck you? Completely. Roman leaned down and kissed her forehead. And I wouldn't change a single thing. They spent the day together. Roman showed Ava the parts of his business he wanted to legitimize. Real estate holdings, investment portfolios, import companies that could operate without criminal connections. It would take time, careful planning, but it was possible. Ava showed Roman her studio space, the design she'd been working on, the clients she'd taken on, the life she was building that had nothing to do with his world. This is good, Roman said, looking around the studio. This is you. Not performing for anyone, just creating. That's the goal, Ava said, to build something that's mine, that stands on its own. Roman turned to her. Can I invest in it? Not as your husband, as someone who believes in what you're building. You want to invest in my design studio? I want to invest in you, Roman corrected. In your talent, in your future. If you'll let me. Ava considered it. Only if it's a real investment, market rates, professional terms, no special treatment because we're together. Roman smiled. Deal. They shook hands like business partners. Then Roman pulled her close and kissed her like she was the only thing that mattered. 3 months later, Salvatore's trial began. Ava testified about her mother's kidnapping. Roman testified about the murder of his parents and the evidence he'd gathered over 20 years. Chen's case was airtight. The jury deliberated for 6 hours before returning guilty verdicts on all 47 counts. Salvatore was sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole. Roman watched the verdict without expression. But when they left the courthouse, Ava saw his hands shaking, saw the way he leaned against the car like his legs wouldn't hold him. It's over, Ava said quietly. He's gone. He can't hurt anyone anymore. I know, Roman's voice was rough. I just keep waiting for the relief, the satisfaction, but all I feel is tired. That's normal, Ava said. You've been fighting him for 20 years. Your body doesn't know how to stop yet. Roman looked at her. How do you always know what to say? I don't. I just know you. Ava took his hand. Come on, let's go home. Home. The word felt right now. The penthouse had stopped feeling like a cage and started feeling like a place they built together. Ava kept some of her things there, her design equipment, clothes, books. But she also kept the studio in Brooklyn and the apartment in Queens where her mother still lived. Balance. That's what they were building. A life that existed in both worlds without being consumed by either. 6 months after Salvatore's conviction, Roman made a decision. He called a meeting of what remained of his organization. About 30 people showed up. Former soldiers, associates, People who'd worked for his father and stayed loyal through everything. Roman stood at the head of the table in a conference room he'd rented specifically for this. "I'm dissolving the family," Roman said without preamble. "The criminal parts, all of it. I'm keeping the legitimate businesses, real estate, investments, import operations that operate legally, but the protection rackets, the underground gambling, the gray market operations, all of it ends." The room erupted. People shouted, argued. One man called Roman a traitor. Roman let them talk. When they finally quieted, he continued, "I'm offering everyone a choice. You can walk away now with severance, 6 months' salary, clean break. Or you can stay and help me build something legitimate, something that won't get your kids arrested or killed. The pay will be less, the work will be harder, but you'll be able to sleep at night." "And if we refuse both?" someone asked. "Then you become my enemy," Roman said simply, "and I'll make sure you don't operate in this city again." It was a threat, but it was also respect. Roman was giving them the choice he'd never had. In the end, 20 people walked away. 10 stayed. 10 is enough, Roman told Ava that night. 10 people who want something better. We'll build from there. A year after the wedding that started everything, Roman and Ava stood in front of a small gathering of people they actually cared about. Sarah was there. Margaret, fully recovered, wearing a dress that made her cry. Marco, who'd become Roman's head of security for the legitimate business. A few other friends they'd collected along the way. No politicians, no mafia associates, no cameras or press. Just a quiet ceremony in a garden outside the city, officiated by a judge who owed Chen a favor. "Do you take this man," the judge asked Ava, "to be your lawfully wedded husband? For real this time, not as part of a contract or arrangement, but as a genuine commitment." Ava looked at Roman. He wore a simple black suit. His hair was shorter. He'd shaved, but his eyes held the same intensity they'd held that first night. "I do," Ava said, and meant it with everything she had. Roman's vows were simpler than expected. "I take you, Ava Hartley, to be my wife, my partner, my conscience. The person who saw past the monster and found something worth saving. I promise to spend the rest of my life becoming the man you believed I could be." When the judge declared them married, Roman kissed Ava softly, reverently, like she was something precious he'd been given permission to keep. The reception was small, good food, better wine. Margaret pulled Ava aside at one point, tears in her eyes. "Are you happy, sweetheart?" "Yes," Ava said, and realized it was true. "I'm terrified most days. This life isn't easy, but I'm happy." "That's all I ever wanted for you," Margaret said. "Happiness. Even if it comes with complications." "Especially if it comes with complications," Ava corrected, watching Roman across the room. He was talking to Marco, probably about business, but his eyes kept finding her, making sure she was okay, making sure she was real. That night, back at the penthouse, Roman and Ava stood at the windows looking out at Manhattan, the same spot where they'd stood so many times before. But this time felt different. "Do you regret it?" Ava asked. "Walking into that cathedral? Marrying a stranger?" Roman pulled her closer. "I regret a lot of things. The danger I put you in. The pain you went through. Your mother's kidnapping. All of it." He paused. "But I don't regret you. I'll never regret you." "Good answer," Ava said, smiling. "What about you?" Roman asked. "Do you regret walking into the wrong chapel?" Ava thought about it. Really thought about it. About everything that had happened since that rainy October night. The fear, the chaos, the moments she'd thought she wouldn't survive, but also the moments that made it worth it. Roman's hand in hers, the way he looked at her like she mattered, the life they were building together against impossible odds. "No," Ava said finally, "I don't regret it, because if I hadn't walked into that chapel, I never would have met you, and you're the best mistake I ever made." Roman laughed. It was warm, genuine, the kind of laugh Ava rarely heard but treasured when she did. "To beautiful mistakes," Roman said, raising an imaginary glass. "To beautiful mistakes," Ava echoed. They stood together in the darkness, watching the city glow below them. Manhattan pulsed with life, millions of people living their own stories, making their own mistakes, finding their own ways to survive. And in a penthouse overlooking it all, a former mafia boss and a graphic designer from Queens held each other close and chose to build something real out of the wreckage of a fake marriage. It wouldn't be easy. There would be fights, setbacks, moments when the weight of Roman's past threatened to crush them both. But they'd face it together. No contracts, no deadlines, no performance. Just two people who'd found each other in the chaos and refused to let go. Outside, the rain started falling again, just like it had that first night. But this time, neither of them noticed. They were too busy looking at each other, too busy living the life they'd built, too busy being real. And somewhere in the city, life moved on. Stories ended and began. People made choices that would change everything or nothing. But for Roman and Ava Moretti, the story was just beginning. The real story. The one they'd chosen, together.